Crawl out through the Fallout, baby, and welcome to Fallout Episode 3, The Head. With me today, I have the usual suspects here, except for the Baked Banana couldn't make it, so we have TooRissky standing in. So we'll just start
Yo.
with you, TooRissky. We're going to start with our first question.
Oh boy.
What is your favorite character from the show so far, and why?
Ugh, that's a tough one. Honestly, this next episode that we're about to talk about made me like a character. And that's Thaddeus. I really I don't know, I just love his innocent, not innocent. I don't know. He's a fun character. As you watch this episode 3, you'll see probably why I like him more.
Wait,
But
you like Thaddeus?
Thaddeus.
The new
the
squire?
Yes.
Yeah, the guy who bullied Maximus?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know, just his character this episode made me kind of like him. But otherwise, I do
He's
really
kinda-
like
yeah, he's
Lucy. I feel like I can relate a lot with her.
Yeah.
And she's just very happy-go-lucky, positive, optimistic attitude, but also smart at the same time.
Very Vault Boy.
Yeah. She's not your typical damsel in distress.
No, she's very capable, right?
Yeah.
She's got good
Yeah.
skills. But okay, well, Thaddeus and Lucy. Snickerer, what's been your favorite character so far on the show?
I would say pretty consistently it's been Lucy.
Really?
For all the reasons that TooRissky said, she's positive, optimistic, and she's just she's different than everything else that's going on around her. It kind of makes her character pop more, and she doesn't depress me like a lot of the other aspects of the show do.
Depress me.
Yeah.
That's a good point. There's a lot of depressing parts of this show that are like, oh. But okay, that's 2 for Lucy, and I guess 1 for Thaddeus. But the Dab Ninja, how you doing? And what's your favorite character for the Fallout show so far?
How's it going, dude? I am tired. I was struggling to wake up when you had messaged me via Snapchat, so I am still very much just sleeped out.
Wake up, Fallout. This is life.
I know. As for favorite character, if I'm being honest with you, I still haven't found one yet. I think maybe the dog, just because Doggo is bestest boy.
Yep, CX404.
I feel like each character has their own set of flaws, and I'm just like, I like y'all, but you ain't just sticking out enough for me.
So none of them's pulled you 100% yet, except
Not
for dog
quite,
meat.
no. Except for the dog, just because very obvious reasons.
Dog,
is very much dog meat, probably.
Is dog is best boy.
Yes. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get to see a little fetch scene with the dog, and that'll make things a little bit better for me.
Just 10 out of 10 episode.
Yes.
When the ghoul plays
Just
fetch with dog meat.
dogs.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, my favorite character is actually the Ghoul. I love Walton Goggins. I think he's a fantastic actor, but his character as the Ghoul is just so bad. The guy is just so mean, and you wonder what he's gone through to get here. So I don't know. I've really liked the art direction. You know, the Wild West cowboy, his tattered cloak, how he looks, his story. He's a tracker, kind of like the whole story of this show so far has been pretty great. I've really enjoyed how they've set this up. But well, obviously, here's your spoiler warning that I forgot to do last episode. But spoiler warning, we will be talking pretty in depth about this episode, talking about scenes, talking about lines, talking about what happens, kind of theorizing. So just be prepared for that. If you haven't seen it, go watch it first and then come back. But okay, let's go ahead and jump right in with scene 1. And the first thing that pops up usually is the title. I feel like they've been doing no, I guess they've been doing character names, but the first thing that pops up is the on-screen text, the beginning. I thought this was pretty solid because it's almost like the opposite of the very first episode, where it starts with the end, right? So it kind of seems like they're out of order, but I think they're doing right. They're doing it on purpose to kind of show you okay, this is maybe a little bit of what happened before the bombs fell.
Periodical flashbacks and releasing a little bit more backstory as we go.
Exactly. Well, and that's kind of like the theme of this whole thing. You know, the whole show really is they say it. You know, where's that line? Basically, will you still want the same things when you have become a different animal altogether? And
I think that's an episode 2.
Yeah, that's episode 2. Wilzig says it.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to kind of see like transitions of characters. And I think that's really interesting. So we get that on-screen text at the beginning, and then it pops right into looks kind of like a movie set. And there's like a cowboy, and it's Walton Goggins, and he's not a ghoul. So it's obviously before the bombs fell. And he's like shooting a guy from Horsetop, and like the guy's on the ground begging for mercy. He says some cowboy lines at him, kind of like a spaghetti western almost. And he's about to shoot the guy. And then he stops, breaks scene, and says, "Do I really got to kill him?" And that's when they go cut. And basically, it was on scene. And I liked that this scene kind of really pulled in immediately an opposite for the Ghoul's character. Before the bombs fell, he seems to be a good guy. He doesn't even want to fake kill someone. But after the bombs fall, we've seen him do some messed up stuff as the Ghoul already. I don't know. I just thought it was a pretty good like hero versus villain, and like
See how far
the
he's
villain
come,
now.
or
Yeah,
how far
right?
he's
Like,
fell.
Yeah.
Right, but like it's the wasteland, so like you're becoming a different animal altogether. So I liked how they were pulling the theme in there. But yeah, so it was a camera scene, and he starts walking off. He's talking to the director, and he's like complaining about the writing, and he's like, "Where's Bob?" And Cadillac Bob is the guy's name. And the director turns to him and says, "Yeah, no, they found out Cadillac Bob is a bit of a communist," which is
And
kind of
then
just like,
Cooper's like, "Oh, that's a shame. He was
yeah,
such
no,
a great
he's
writer."
like, "Really, Cadillac Bob?" Yeah, like, and they're like, "Yeah, he was a great writer, but communist." And then they just kind of move on, which is like, I don't know. Before the bombs dropped, they were like abducting people, right? Like they had to be looking for communists and stuff, and like very
Well, just that
um
era was like the communist scare, like
the Red
historically,
Scare,
right? The
yeah.
Red Scare.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, kind of.
I was gonna say a good way to look at it is of how bad that was Fallout 3's Point Lookout DLC. If you do one of the side missions, you have to essentially like become a communist agent and infiltrate a couple of different things. And a lot of those people, like at least according to the Fallout 3 lore, would usually get sent to like prison camps and then end up just dying. So like,
Yikes.
you're communist, you're dead.
Was there like a Russia, I guess, or the USSR, or
Yes, but from what I have gathered, supposedly the Soviet Union was an ally to the US in the Fallout universe, as opposed to us having, major beef with them.
In the Fallout, no, because we fought China and they were the communists. That was like the whole.
Yes.
So I guess you're saying the USSR was like separated from China. I thought they. Man, now I got to go watch my lore videos again. I thought they combine.
The USSR is, formerly like, Russia. So like
Yeah,
Czechoslovakia, all
yeah.
those,
Soviet Union. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. I don't think China was part of the USSR, like at all, ever.
See, I thought when so what happens is America like annexes Canada because they're
Yes.
scared of the red threat, right? Like the communist threat, and they think China's going to come over. I couldn't remember if China did the same thing and absorbed Russia, but I guess from what you're saying, they didn't. I don't know. We'll have to. Now I got to go watch more
We can
lore
look into it
videos.
at a later time.
But yeah. Cool. Yeah. So there's definitely that red scare, that fear, and it's just like Cadillac Bob was a bit of a communist. Like what? Well, I don't know. It just kind of was funny. But then the director's kind of like pushing him, and he's like, this needs to be like the power of the individual when the chips are down, the new America. Like you kill him. Like it's like damn. Like, and he says this. This was actually kind of cool because he says like it's just you, your gun, and your personal code bringing order to the wild, wild west. And it kind of is like in the wasteland, it's just you, your gun, and your personal code bringing order to the wild, wild west. And I thought that was a cool reflection of like before the bombs dropped, they're talking about like it being a wasteland and like being cutthroat, and they're trying to portray that. And then after the bombs drop, it's really like that's what's happening.
Like kind of
I wouldn't,
foretelling his character.
I wouldn't say he's
right?
bringing order though.
No, I
No.
wouldn't say bringing order.
Bringing chaos.
Well, order in a way because he was hired to do a job, right? Like, so
True. So it's not so
I
much
guess it
chaos,
depends
but
on
he's
who hired him. But yeah, so
shenanigans.
kind of cool. I love this first scene, but yeah, he kind of ends it with the director. He says, "Okay, we'll figure it out. I gotta go." And then he sees this woman over next to a food table next to the studio, and they like start flirting, kind of.
That's his
And
wife.
yeah, well, you don't know that yet, right? Like, so he's kind of flirting with this lady, and we have
This is the
no
first
idea,
time we're seeing her.
right? And they're talking about like lavender taffy. What does lavender taffy taste like?
Lavender. It's a
Gross.
bit
Flowers.
floral, but it's
That
light.
sounds
Tastes
terrible.
purple. I've had lavender ice cream before. It's not bad.
I
Unless
think
they
lavender
like put
ice cream makes
actual lavender flower buds in there, and then it's just like I'm eating flowers. And
it's
it's
just weird.
weird.
I don't know. I'm lavender flavored
Lavender
taffy.
flavoring is just hit and miss,
I
honestly.
picture like lavender soap. And
Yeah.
it just
You
doesn't.
picture soap when we're talking about a candy? That's not
Well,
good.
that's the only lavender thing that I use or like have used.
Honestly, if you could imagine lavender soap, but just like a little bit less soapy, that's what that lavender taffy would taste like.
A little less soapy.
It's not
Fantastic.
selling me on it.
Love it.
Nope, it's not meant to sell you on it.
But okay, so he flirts with her, and then we come to find out, like, he breaks immediately. She like gives him some taffy, and he like takes 2 bites. And he's like, "This is terrible."
It's the
And, like,
worst thing I've ever put in my
yeah,
mouth.
it's the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth. And like takes it out, and then his kid walks up, and you realize it's his wife. So she's come to meet with him, and she's like, she seems like an actor too, because they like apologize to each other about like when they kiss, their like makeup gets messed up or something.
Well, he kisses her and gets stage makeup on her, and then she kisses him and she gets her lipstick on him, and so they're like, "Oh, sorry, got makeup all over you."
Okay, that's what I thought they were
Yeah.
saying, like they were both like act. I don't know, but which could be right. We don't know. I guess
Yeah.
it doesn't really.
She could
matter if
even
she's
be
right.
like his agent or something like that.
Possibly, because she does hand him a like box, and she says like, "Okay, it's time to go to this next place." And she says like, "It's in your colors," which would be like the blue and gold that he's wearing, right?
What's in the
Which are
box?
also Vault-Tec
Oh, I
colors.
think we know.
Yeah, yeah. What's in the box? Yeah.
Because they don't show us.
No, they don't show us anything yet, and so this is kind of the end of the first scene. They say, "All right, let's do the costume change," and they start walking off, and it looks like they're on Hollywood Boulevard or whatever. Is it called Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard is like near Hollywood, but like the studios that they film are like more
In
like
Beverly
Paramount Plus
Hills,
studios, or
aren't
like,
they?
they're not
Is on Sunset
necessarily
Boulevard though, right?
not necessarily,
Okay, well,
but they do go there later.
okay, well, my that's kind of what I was trying to clear up, but okay.
No, not
It's fine.
Sunset
So
Boulevard.
they're in Hollywood, and it looks like a bunch of studios. So they walk off, and that's kind of the end. That's how we get into
Hold on,
the
hold
show.
on, hold on.
What you got?
Before we go into this next scene, between 5 minutes 35 seconds and 5 minutes 40 seconds, if you look close enough, you can see 2 dudes walk out of this like room on the right hand side of the screen, and they're dressed in Roman like apparel. And
I remember seeing those guys.
I don't know if I'm over analyzing it, but I'm sitting there going, that could be a nod to Caesar's Legion. We could potentially end up seeing the
Ooh.
Legion at some point.
That would be pretty sweet. Like they're
Yeah.
just doing like a little mention of Caesar's Legion.
I honestly just wrote it off.
See, and I understand that, like, oh, it's a movie set. They could just be doing a Roman-based movie or something. But I'm sitting there going, it's almost a little too, like, on the nose. Like,
Well, you see this over and over again in this show too. They put a lot of little things in there that are references to the games and to the lore. So why not? Why not? Like,
Very well could
honestly,
be.
was one of them wearing like Lanius's mask? Like,
not a mask, but, like, one of them definitely has a Centurion helmet with, like, the plumes or whatever going down
yeah.
the middle.
I mean, it could
So-
be both. Could be neither. But
No, exactly. I at least wanted to point that out, because it's like, if we do end up happening to see the Legion, this could have been the little thing that
where they
it
get their
took.
outfits.
Yeah.
I also noticed like kind of the same vibe. There's like some Mr. Handies puttering around.
Yeah.
And like the cars were styled right, like that total like 50s futuristic, but I don't know, pretty good. I liked all the little references. They really make it feel like Fallout. And like I said, the film filter that they're using too does a good job. But cool, maybe Caesar's Legion. I'm excited. Okay, that ends that scene. And then we move into the next scene, which is kind of like an immediately like jarring scene of bloodless, headless body just right there, and it's Wilzig's Wilzig's body after the head got chopped off. So we thought we wouldn't get to see it, but we get to see the headless body, and the camera pans over, and the ghoul is there. So he's tracked him pretty much all the way to where Lucy had to cut the head off. He's got dog meat with him. I thought this part was interesting because he starts coughing. And at first I thought he was kind of like, I don't know.
The body stinks.
Yeah, not even the body stinks. I thought he was kind of smirking at like the fact that the head's cut off because he knows Lucy had to have done it, right?
Oh,
And how
he
she was kind of
definitely
so
was
good.
smirking.
You think so? Like there's a little bit of a smirk in there?
There is. If you pay attention, you can definitely see that, like, it's a split-second smile.
So like he thinks that like Lucy's kind of changed, right? Because like he's
Yeah.
impressed that she actually cut the head off. But he also keeps coughing, and then he pulls out like a cigar box, and in it are these vials. And then he pulls out like an inhaler and like attaches it, and then takes a hit, and that kind of helps his coughing. I think it's Jet, but what do you guys think?
No.
You don't think it's Jet?
We saw somebody take Jet in the very first episode during
Right.
that vault fight.
It looked different.
It is a red canister inhaler. This, I don't know.
It's a clear vial with like a yellowish golden liquid in it.
Well, Jet's the only drug that like really is. I guess unless you start mixing the drugs, like in
Well,
Fallout 4,
so
you can start crafting them. Or is that?
Here's the
70?
thing. I have one theory that I'm banking super hard on about this man. Because in Fallout 4, Hancock mentions that he took some drugs that turned him into a ghoul. I understand this man's been alive for 200 years.
No way.
But do you think there's any drugs that have been created that kind of help with ghoulification, like turn people into ghouls, or i.e.
Then he's
try to
like,
slow it down and reverse it?
but Hancock wasn't like addicted.
Are ghouls like falling apart? Like are they like
Maybe.
zombies where they like deteriorate?
In
Not
like the
really.
first original Fallouts they were, and like some of the newer ones, not so much.
I think it depends on the amount of radiation you got.
Yeah.
Like, so some of them are crafted to be perfect. I mean, perfect for a ghoul and live super long and still maintain their brain. And then there's other ones that definitely just like slowly fell apart and became feral.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it just has to do with the amount of radiation, or like Dab Ninja's saying is like Hancock took drugs to become a ghoul. So maybe it's the same thing here for our ghoul. Maybe he's been taking those drugs and that's what's keeping him like sane.
Alive. Or instead of turning feral.
Yeah, and he's like dependent on them now.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll have to see. That might make sense actually. Like that tickled my brain. Thank you, Dab Ninja. That reminded
You're
me of
welcome. It's just like when you play so much Fallout, you have to start connecting things by like anything because it's like, well,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a possibility.
No, I love that thought process, right? But anyway, let's keep going on. So he takes his drug and feels better, looks around, sees the tracks of Lucy, and whistles for the dog, and they start going. And that's when we get the title, and it's just Fallout. And this one was cool because it turns to dust and kind of like blows away. And I really appreciate that on every single episode, the Fallout thing's been different. So
Yep.
like the second one was bullet holes. What was the first one? The first one was
It was like burning.
yeah, the first one was like burning, like the bombs had fallen on it, right? Like something like that. So kind of cool, kind of, and I like that it's just quick. It's just Fallout, and then we move on, right? Like they don't do like a whole. I love intros, and they could have done something really cool with the power armor, but I kind of like that they're not wasting any time here. That they're just
Yeah.
like, okay, keep going. Then we start with Maybe by the Ink Spots, and once again,
Iconic
use-
song.
right? Once again, the use of the music is just perfect here. I love that they're doing the music because it really brings in that Fallout universe, playing the game, listening to the music, just gets you in the vibe.
Maybe was the theme song for the first Fallout game.
The theme song was I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire.
It was going to be that they couldn't get the funding for it, so they used it in Fallout 3 instead.
Ah, okay. That makes
Yes.
sense. That makes sense. But yeah, so this scene we start, it's Lucy. And she enters the screen, Karen Wilzig's head. And she's walking around the wasteland, basically. She's still going. I was trying to think, like, is she just wandering? But no, remember, Ma June put the coordinates in her Pip-Boy. So she's just following that. And she settles down like she doesn't have a worry, sets up camp, and just kind of chilling there. She's eating deviled eggs
Out of a
eh,
box.
out
Ugh.
of a box, which is just like,
Blech.
how is it still fine? Like, I don't
200
understand.
years.
Right? Like, it's just, oh, it's the amount of preservatives that have to be in there is just ridiculous. But yeah, so she eats her deviled eggs, and then she picks up the head, and she says, "What's so special about you?" I thought that was so cool because it's just like the special traits from the games, right? And they're like, "What's so special about you?" And I don't know, just kind of like a little nod to like what were his characteristics or something. But she feels her on the head, and she feels a zap behind his ear, and that's how she finds the little thing that's in there, and she figures, okay, whatever that thing is that's in his head is what's valuable, which is why he said, take my head. She pulls out a little like tracker device from her like pit boy, and she shoves it up his nose and says, there, snug as a bug. Which Lucy's just so funny. She's just so like optimistic. All of her terms are like just that way.
And she's like not being like grossed out about like holding a head and stuffing a tracker up his nose. Like,
Right?
I would not want to be touching that, especially with like how gray his head is now. And it's just like, ugh. But no, she's doing a good job.
I feel like she's in some sort of shock, kind of like perpetual. It just doesn't seem like she should be able to make that transition from being in like this Midwestern value vault to like cutting people's heads off and just touching them casually.
Right.
She's kind of been in shock since like the vault got attacked, right? Like so many people died, but she even like immediately fought for her life. I don't know. She seems able to cope really well, and I think that's just the vault's optimism overall. Like Vault
Adapt,
33 is
improvise, overcome.
right.
Yeah, but don't you think she'd be somewhat traumatized at this point, though?
Definitely, and she's not facing it, but so we think at some point she'll probably break.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because at some point, like, you're gonna be traumatized and snap or crack, or that's how I kind of treat my character in Fallout, New Vegas.
Yeah. No, like there's definitely going to be a point where she breaks, and I think that's once again we're talking about the theme. She's going to be a different animal altogether by the end of this, but she seems to be handling everything relatively well. um, the head too looked so good, right? Like they had to have like I wonder what it was like for the actor of Wilzig to like look at this severed head and see himself, like
It'd be so weird.
right? And they had to have like molded, like
Oh,
cast
yeah.
a mold on his head to like get it to look that good.
Definitely.
But yeah, just a weird. Like the prop departments are killing it these days. But yep, she sticks the device up his nose, and then she starts remembering the Knight Titus. Well, Knight Titus, but it's Maximus, right? And how he was heroic, and she kind of like admires that, right? Because she hasn't really seen that in the Wasteland so far. So like
Honestly, the first smile she saw. Because when he saves her, he like opens up her
opens his
mask and then he smiles. And she's like, not only did this guy save me, this is the first smile that I'm getting in the Wasteland. And
Yeah.
I
so
didn't
that
think
sticks
about
with
it
her.
that way.
No.
No, I didn't think about it as the first person who smiled at Lucy, because I haven't sat here and considered who's smiling and who isn't.
No one's smiling.
It's like the first real friendly face.
Well, besides the dude that wanted her to move in with him.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
Did he smile at her?
water full of sand.
I don't
And we saw the chicken dude, the guy who was fucking the chickens was smiling.
But
You
not
probably
to
shouldn't.
Lucy.
But not to Lucy, you're right. But yeah, no, I think she really admires people who do good, right? And to her, the knight has only been gallant so far. She doesn't know that Maximus has had kind of his swaying back and forth on whether he's like a good guy or not. But yeah, she remembers him, and I thought this was a perfect scene transition because as she's thinking about him, it then flashes to Maximus, and it's the power armor being like dragged. And then we remember last time, like we saw Maximus, he had like crashed the power armor into an outhouse area into like basically a bunch of poo caca, and like
Yeah.
now he's
Not
like
going great for him.
it doesn't look as good as she's imagining him so great, and then he's over here like dragging his armor through some shit. Like uh,
Like,
and
literally.
this is kind of cool because I was trying to analyze him because for some reason Maximus seems like pretty strong, pretty good fighter, pretty good like endurance, right? Because like he makes this like power armor's not light. Like in the games, if a power armor falls over, you can't pick it up. Like you can't prop it up. Like it's kind of a limitation of the system, but at the same time, it's like the idea here is that you can't do this. And he
Solid steel.
basically he makes like some kind of shift pulley thing, and he pulls up the armor onto up to a pole and chains it there, so he can figure out what's wrong with it. So he's got to have like high strength here, because like you got to be pretty strong to be able to pull that thing.
He's really special.
He's really special.
He's probably the most neutral character we've seen so far. Do some good, do some bad, make everyone question your moral.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, right? Like, I'm not sure how Maximus is going to turn out. He seems kind of the most even, kind of doing stuff for himself, but yeah, also rescued Lucy. So who knows? But so he pulls it up. He pulls the armor up, and armor looks good. It just looks good this whole time. But he pulls it up, finds that there's like one little broken part.
Which I thought was kind of weird that, like, after all that, not only the Yaogoi bear attack and then the fight with the ghoul and, like, crash landing and all that, there's only one little broken part.
Oh, I mean, those things were built to be tanks. So it makes sense because the ghoul only cut like one like part. So
True.
if he just put his knife in there and popped it real quick, it makes sense that it'd be like one little spot that he's got to fix. Now I thought he got one of the hoses, but I guess he didn't get one of the hoses. He
Yeah.
got something else.
It looked
But
like he cut something that, like, was holding the hose. It looked like a little clamp,
yeah,
and then the hose went
exactly.
like flying.
Yeah,
That
that
would
makes
make
more sense.
sense, because that would almost be like the filter piece in the very front.
But it, like, affected
like, the
his
oxygen.
equilibrium.
So it was like some balance stuff.
Maybe it'd be like a servo or something.
Almost like the power steering for your car, but, like, for the power armor.
Yeah. So he's got to fix it, otherwise he can't use the power armor, basically.
Do you think it'd be like not necessarily like a gyroscope, but like something like that?
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah, that would make sense, right? Like he's got to like stay even keel, and for some reason, if that whatever that was made it so he wasn't. So,
And the ghoul knew what to cut too. It seemed like.
well, I bet the ghoul's probably faced power armor before. It's probably not his first rodeo. I mean, the guy was getting literally tossed by the thing and didn't seem
That,
worried.
or we do gotta understand that ghoul is over 200 years old. There is a very good chance he himself served in the war.
Oh yeah, no, he was a vet, wasn't he? Don't they like say he was a vet that became an actor? Because he talks
think
about
Yeah.
so,
he said his training when he was that's the whole thumb scene with his daughter. He said he was a
because
vet.
that's pretty parallel to Nate in Fallout 4. He was a war vet who had previous experience, so like
It makes sense. He would know what like to cut and what to do. And obviously been around a while and hasn't really needed to sleep, right? So yeah, this is moving back to the scene. This is where Maximus, I think, really screws up. At least from this perspective so far. He gets a radio call like while he's trying to figure out the piece, and it's from the Brotherhood, and they're basically like, "Hey, Knight Titus, are you okay? You've missed your check-in time." And Max immediately, without thinking, just lies to them and says that, "Yeah, I'm Knight Titus. We're fine. Everything's fine here." It's basically the Han Solo scene, right? Everything's fine here. We're good. How are you? But no, he says like, "Oh, the squire's dead." Basically says like, "I'm dead," right? Because Matt, he was the squire. So it's like he's dead. No need to worry about it. He died with honor and glory. And they're like, "Okay, well, we'll send you a replacement squire." And then he's like, "Oh crap." He's like, "No, no, 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 no. No need to do that. We're good." And they just are like, "No, we're sending him. He'll be there right away. Don't worry about it."
Not a problem. We got plenty.
And Max even seems to know he does something wrong here because he like smacks himself in the head when he says that he died. Like he's like, oh, dang it, I should have said that. But it's like too late. Like he's already like started the lie, so he's got to continue the lie. And the Brotherhood's gonna send him a squire, and he panics and he rips the radio out of the power armor and then stomps on it. Like that fixes it.
Easiest solution right there.
Right? If I just don't have the radio, they can't tell me.
Whoops.
But yeah, so that was I think that's where Maximus's decision making was definitely flawed.
Oh, are they tracking the power armor?
They've got to have some tracker on that power armor, right?
They know exactly where he's at.
Yeah, I mean that's true because if they drop the Squire right where he's at, they got to know where he's at. So
And then like we'll get there, but like the Squire knows exactly where to go to.
yeah,
once
I
he
was actually
lands.
going to ask about that because that makes more sense, right? The power armor's got to have some type of tracking on it. So he panics, breaks the radio, grabs the part, and runs off back to the town. He needs to fix it so he can get out of there, right? It's the same town that we were already in where he fought everybody, which is kind of funny
Billy.
because without the armor, they don't know who he is, so he's just some other random dude. I was actually like rewatching this scene. You can see them like dragging bodies around and stuff, like they were cleaning up from the previous fight, and like just people meandering around. It's just kind of interesting, like the continuity there of like, yeah, they'd be picking up the town after they just beat the crap out of it.
Yeah, I didn't notice
Um,
that when I was watching through.
Yeah, no, so they do that, and then he runs up to a stall that says repair on it. And this is a direct callback to Fallout 4 and all their like, you set up the little booths and stuff for like repairing stuff or for buying stuff, the little vendor booths when you go to build. And it's just so cool. I really like that they keep pulling in the games. It's just doing such a great job of world building. Probably skewing my rating of the show, but yeah, it's okay.
At least they're staying true to the source material.
Exactly. So he tries to haggle with the repair lady who's got like some kind of like weird mouth thing. She sounds weird.
Maybe she was a smoker.
Maybe, but like it makes no sense that it would be on her cheek instead of like her throat.
Oh, I don't know. The only thing I can think of, she got shot in the cheek, and
It makes it sound like a robot.
It's the
Maybe.
wasteland. You never know.
Yeah. So it's just some weird, like she's got some weird tech stuff on her. And she's like 5 caps. And he like rips off his boot, pours out 4 caps, and he's like, "Will you take 4?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, at first he's like a little disbelieving. He's like, "Really?" And she just blank stares at him, and he's like, "Fine." And then this next part sucks so bad, man. In the background, you can kind of see this sign that literally says, "We buy teeth." And he looks over there, and then the next scene, he's walking back up to her, and his mouth's all swollen.
And
And
he's like
slaps-
one side like looks like it's been numbed, like his
Yeah, it looks like it's been
mouth
numbed or
is
like messed
dripping a
up.
little bit.
Yeah, he's dripping blood. It's just, it's like basically he went and sold his teeth, and that, I just hate that because they probably went in there just with like some ply. It's the wasteland, right? Like,
Right.
guy just probably popped some pliers in there and ripped them out. But basically, he drops down the caps, says that he'll pay extra if she fixes it fast. She picks it up, solders one thing, puts it back down, and she's done.
Like I sold a tooth for that. That's all
Right.
it took.
It's a terrible exchange rate.
He's so bitter, but it doesn't matter because the wasteland's full of swindlers, and he's just like, fine, grabs the part and heads back to his armor, basically.
so how many caps did they give him for his tooth then?
Right? I'm wondering, like, does he now have like 30 caps in his boot?
Because it didn't seem like he had a lot when he finally did pay for it. It seemed like they gave him like 2 caps for his tooth, and he literally gave the 2 caps to her to fix that.
You think the tooth only costs 2 caps?
I don't
You
know.
can find teeth all over the place, though.
Maybe. Either way, it was just a funny exchange where he basically got ripped off.
Stupid.
But yeah, he runs back to his armor, and this is where it just keeps getting worse for Maximus. There's a group of thugs just messing with his armor. And so he's like, so his mouth's all messed up, and he says something like, what did he say?
He's like, back away from the armor or something like
He
that.
says like, "Step away from the armor," and his mouth's all messed up. And the guy turns and he just looks to his friends and he goes, "Kick the shit out of him."
And he's like obnoxiously laughing the entire time. It's really annoying.
He's like this little twerpy dude. He's just so annoying, and like you're just like, how did this guy get in charge of these idiots? The fight starts, and Max does okay at first. He gets a couple hits in, but pretty much just gets beat to crap. And then like he gets tackled, and I think his head like hits a post or something.
No.
And then it doesn't hit the post. It looked
no,
weird.
his head doesn't really hit a post.
It looked weird on the camera angle. So like he gets tackled down, and then they just start kicking the crap out of him, and basically until he blacks out. So surprisingly, they don't kill him, right? Like usually everybody kills people in here, but maybe they thought he was dead. I don't know. But then Max wakes up, and it does seem like there must have been some time pass here because when he wakes up, the thugs are now poking around inside the armor, so they somehow got it to open, and he just looks beat up here. Like guy just took a pounding. But he
Blood
grabs
dripping
some
from his mouth.
right. He grabs some huge pliers and a toilet seat. And how does this fight go?
He's ready this time.
No, yeah, but it still doesn't turn out in his favor. Oh, not right away.
Not right away. He swings one. He like takes the pliers and he swings left and right, and he like gets the big guy. He gets him down first, and then the other guys are like, "Oh shoot!" And
well,
then
these pliers are huge too,
they're
right?
huge.
Like you wonder who's been using these things.
And then he swings the second
And the
guy.
toilet seat is a shield. I was wondering how he's going to use the toilet seat, and he actually like uses it pretty smart because he like jabs it into the guy's throat, so it's like wrapped around the guy's neck, and then shoves it down, and it like kind of like pins the guy down. Then he goes to swing on another guy and gets stopped, and then he gets basically just pinned and pushed up against the power armor, like face first into it. Or no, backwards into it, right?
Yeah.
And the other guy picks up his pliers and just starts beating the crap out of Max. And like hitting him in the stomach and the abs, and it's like that's just gotta hurt so bad. Like he's gonna have some bruises, some broken ribs,
And they're like choking him at this point too.
Yeah, they're like choking him up against it. Like he's gonna need a stim pack. And I thought it was funny because like we talked about strength earlier, but he's definitely got to have endurance. But I'm telling you, like this guy has 0 in luck. Like there is like Max has got to have 0 in his luck skill because he's just getting the trash beat out of him, and everything seems to keep going wrong.
One after the next.
Exactly. But this is probably I keep thinking they can't get gorier, and then they just keep getting gorier.
Yes, they do.
So, well, Brad, what happens then? So he's pushed up and he's getting beat. What happens?
He squishes the dude's brains, which I thought was gonna happen like the episode before when he had to intervene with the dude and the chicken fucker.
Yeah.
So when that finally happened, I was actually kind of excited for that. I'm like, that's freaking awesome.
Oh, it was so
So
gross.
disgusting.
Well, he like reaches into the arm because he's pushed up against it, right? And he's just getting beat, so he's got to do something. He reaches his arm into like the power armor, grabs the twerpy leader dude's head, and just pops it like a freaking grape. And it's just so gross and so graphic.
Fantastic.
The effects and prop people are just killing it in this show. Like Amazon actually put their money in a good place because it was gross.
Very well done. Very realistic.
But it does the job, and it scares the other thugs away, and they run off. He's able to get them away. Once again, it's still not going well for Max because guess what? All that time passed, and the Vertibird now pulls in with the Brotherhood of Steel. And they're dropping in his new squire. And he actually runs back to town, which I wouldn't leave my armor again. I'd fix it, I'd get in, then go to town. But whatever.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't really learn his lesson.
No, like I mean, I guess he's been hit in the head a few times, and like he's probably
He's
not
still
thinking
slow.
straight,
He's like,
right? But he runs to town, and he sees the squire drop in, and it's Thaddeus, TooRissky's favorite character.
The guy
So-
who bullied him the most while he was at camp.
Right, like the guy that was the biggest asshole is the one that he finds out is going to be his new squire. So then he books it.
I thought it was going to be his friend, the one who got hurt.
I think he was hoping, but she got hurt, right? So like they're not going to there's no way like she was able to heal that fast. So
True,
What about
yeah.
Stimpaks, though?
Yeah, Stimpaks seemed to heal anything.
so
But
all
maybe
she
they
did
just-
was wrap up though. Like she didn't, because if that was the case, she would have already been healed, and they would have just sent her on her way.
Maybe they don't want to waste
I
the
don't
Stimpak.
Maybe like they didn't need to, I guess.
Maybe it really is just better to heal naturally.
I'm not
Like
sure
if you
because
can.
they don't
do it
ever
with
show
that.
like a stim pack like sealing up wounds or anything.
Yeah.
I guess that's like the implication, but they don't really show that. And I mean, the guy Knight Titus, when he died last episode, was thinking that a stim pack would just solve all his problems. So I don't know. Discontinuity.
Yeah, so to be fair, Maximus didn't really give Titus that stim pack, though.
Yeah, so we don't know if it would have done the job or not. Okay, so then he runs back, right? Because he's like, crap, it's not my buddy, it's my bully. So he runs all the way back to the armor, puts the piece in, jumps in the power armor, and right as he's jumping the power armor, Thaddeus comes jogging up with his big old backpack.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. And it's definitely, like you said, TooRissky, there's definitely like a tracker in the armor. Because otherwise, how would Thaddeus go right to him? He's outside of the town. He's like, yeah. So there's also like when the Vertibird was coming in, they had like a PA playing, like saying something like, calm down, citizens, don't worry about it.
This
like,
is a Brotherhood of Steel drop-off.
yeah, basically. So it seems like it's a normal thing they do. And I guess everyone's just like, whatever.
They like
But,
to make their presence known.
right. We are the Wasteland.
The Brotherhood of Steel.
That looks like some technology you shouldn't have. Be a shame if someone took it from you. That's my technology.
That's my toaster.
That's yeah, right. That's my
Be a
toaster.
shame if you lost your life over it.
Right? Pretty much. I'm surprised they didn't go in and like take all the Pip-Boy stuff from Ma June. But they were just dropping off and dipping. They must not have cared.
That wasn't their purpose here.
Exactly. But then we got Thaddeus and he shows up and he thinks it's Knight Titus, right? He doesn't realize it's Max. So he like immediately kneels down. He's like, Knight Titus, I'm here to like serve you and everything. And Max has an option here. And Max kind of like puts his hand over his head like he's going to squash Thaddeus's head.
And it's still bloody from when he squished the guy's head.
Yeah, right? Like it's still gross and bloody. And like that's when Thaddeus freaks out. He's like, "What? I offend you? I'm so sorry. Like, can I have mercy? Like, stop. Don't kill me. I'll do anything." And this is when it clicks in Max's head. And I like that they do go inside his armor and show his face because it's good to see like his reactions. But this is when it clicks in his head like, he thinks I'm Titus. I have all the power. I can do anything I want. And so then he takes off his cock plate. He hands it to Thaddeus and says, clean this. This is basically the same thing that happened to him with Knight Titus originally when he was trying to make conversation.
Which I didn't really like. I guess I know that Thaddeus was like bullied him, but his whole thing is he wants to be a better knight than Titus, and then he just kind of reverts back to doing what Titus did to him.
It's like a non-harmful way to kind of get back at him and like mess with him, I guess.
It starts non-harmful.
Yeah.
But who knows what it grows into.
It's like, it's not terrible, but you're right. It's definitely like, now we're questioning Max's moral compass again, right? Like, because he's not being better. He's being about the same. I mean, I think he is better overall, and we come to see that. But like, he definitely like he gave in to like the evil moral choice. I'm trying to compare it to the game and how they basically he would be vilified. I don't know, but
yeah, maybe a merciful thug.
Yeah, merciful thug. I think that's a good one. Perfect. But yeah, so Thaddeus is like, he's like, of course, sorry, Titus, and he starts cleaning it, right? And then he tells him like basically, hey, so also I come bringing you news. We aren't the only ones looking for the scientist, and we're told to basically just kill anybody that stands in our way. And Max just says, understood.
But he seems like kind of concerned about that. Like he's like, I don't want to
Wanna
kill everybody that stands in our way. Like that's not his vision of a knight in shining armor.
Do you think he's thinking like Lucy's gonna be in his way or something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, possibly.
And he did rescue her. He found someone that's like clean and kind right out the gate. So that's definitely a change for him. So he's like, yeah, I maybe don't want to kill her. So maybe that's his concern. But okay, then they take off. And we switch back to Lucy. Now, this next scene's pretty solid. This is where she comes to Sunset Boulevard. She's been wandering around, and it's very green here. And, like, it's like a little sunken, like, there's some buildings out there, and it's all sunken. There's, like, water all over the place. And, but she sees, like, a nice little... Go ahead.
It says it was a nice break from the desert. Like, a little scene change.
Good scene change, and, like, there's obviously some water here. And she sees a fawn, like just a normal deer. It's not a rad stag. Doesn't have 2 heads. Doesn't have any problems. Looks perfectly healthy and fine. And I think Lucy in that moment's like, there is hope for the wasteland. Like, there's like animals here, and there's nature, and like it's okay. And then immediately there's a giant monster that jumps out of the water, grabs the fawn, and sucks it right into the water.
And Hope lost.
And Hope immediately crushed, right? So she sees that and she's like, what the crap? She starts moving closer to get a better look, and she gets attacked from behind. Is this another one or is it the same one?
I think it's the same one. But it is kind of weird that it was like in the water and then all of a sudden it was behind her on shore and you don't hear like any water splashing, that it got back out of the shore or the water, and it's, I don't know, it's a little weird how
Yeah, we got
worked.
some like, that's why I kind of thought it was another gulper, but I
don't
know.
It's a gulper yet, but yeah.
Well, it's definitely a gulper, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you played the games, you definitely know it's a gulper, and it's like, it's a little, I guess, a little different from how the gulpers look in the games.
What game is the Gulper from?
4.
4.
Far Harbor.
Yeah, they're more green.
Everything in
Right?
Fallout is more green.
Well, I was gonna say everything in Far Harbor has this weird, like, green, swampy tint to it.
Yeah, and this one's like straight up orange.
Pink,
So
I would say.
it reminded me of like maybe if they like combined the gulper and the centaur. Kind
Yeah,
of.
the gulper looks way more lizardy. I've like Googled it and it looks way more lizardy in the game. But this one,
You also can't see its eyes. Like its eyes are just like kind of small in the game. They just look like mouth things.
The one in the show is nasty. It's like human skin pink.
Yeah, that's why I said I think it's pink.
It looks like a axolotl.
Yes, it does look like an axolotl, because it's got those like weird antenna thing coming out of the side of its head, and it's got like 2 human-looking hands
And the small eyes. Just
Friendo BMR.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you got Sunset Boulevard from, because that sign says Hollywood Boulevard on it.
That's what I meant to write.
Okay, well then
Yeah.
that's what we got from the script.
That makes more sense.
I
I
was
was so
like,
confused
I
this whole
don't
time.
remember Sunset Boulevard, and also had to re-pull up the episode and like skip to it and try to find it real
So
quick.
it is Hollywood Boulevard, which is where the ghoul was, right?
Yes.
Which means that like we're directly showing, like they showed us how it looked before the bombs fell, and now they're showing us how it looks after the bombs fell, which I think is super cool, right? Like bringing in places that they show us before, we see how it changed, and it's like super flooded too, so like it did not go well. Probably like tsunamis and stuff, I would say, caused by the bombs dropping and like the change of basically the atmosphere of the entire world would cause like tsunamis. The climate change, yeah. It's all climate change. Back to the gulper and how gross it looked. The one that snuck up behind her, I guess, is the same one. Maybe grabs the head, like grabs her and starts dragging her, and she like turns and shoots it with her syringe pistol, and it lets go. But then it grabs the bag with the head in it that she has. So it grabs Wilzig's head, drags it off, and so she starts chasing it right along the shoreline because she can see the head kind of going, and she gets to a certain point and it dips below the water. She's reading a lot of rads on her Pip-Boy, but she doesn't care because she's trying to figure out, like, obviously the monster's probably radiation, probably the water's radiation, like anything could be radiation at this point. But she just is looking for the tracker, so she turns that off, looks for the tracker, and that's when you hear a gun click behind her, which I think is what the radiation was, like her meter was actually telling her, is that the ghoul's right behind her. And him and CX-404 are right behind her, and the dog's kind of like growling, and the gun clicks, and she just goes, "Hello again." Just that classic Lucy, like, not a
optimist.
Right? Super optimistic. Like, I know we just had a fight. I know that you're chasing me for the thing, but like, how you doing? Like,
how's it going, dude?
How's it going, dude?
Exactly.
Right? So he's holding the gun on her and starts digging through her stuff. And when she says, I think when he says hello again, he literally like pistol whips her. Like, just, how's it going, dude? Whap! Just hits her on the face with the pistol. And starts digging through her crap. He can't find the head. And so he says, where is it? And she doesn't tell him. She's actually smart here. She doesn't tell him, I have a tracker so we can go find it. She says, I don't know, I lost it. But I'm pretty sure the ghoul has decent perception here because he like looks over and he sees some poop and he's like, "Yep, it's basically." He doesn't say anything, but in
Sticks
his head, like,
foot in it.
yeah, he
Ugh.
puts his gross.
He pulls an Arthur Morgan and starts tracking the animal through his senses.
Exactly, like immediately starts tracking and he's like, "Yep, it's a gulper. I get it," and that ends that scene. Then we actually get to go to the Vault 33. So he's got Lucy. They're off doing their thing now. And they're still being tracked by the power armor. So all those characters are kind of moving. But now we come back to Vault 33. And we see Norm sitting in a hallway. And
Rico!
yeah, and then Chet comes out from getting chewed out. He looks like he's been crying. And he's
Chet.
like, yeah,
Chet
poor
would
Chet.
cry.
Chet would cry. He got demoted from his job for door duty. He's no longer the doorman because he let Lucy out. And Norm's all like, "You okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. It's not a big deal. I just not really sure who I even am anymore."
Homie is having an identity crisis over losing his
His whole
job.
identity was just being the gatekeeper.
He was the guy with the door. So pretty good there. So it's Norm's turn basically to go in. Chet goes off, and Norm's like sorry for him, and Norm goes in. And I thought this whole thing was hilarious because they're just like they don't know how to punish this guy. They talk about they're like basically all your jobs you've lacked enthusiasm. And so they start listing through his jobs. He's like, you're working with computers, you lack enthusiasm. And he's kind of being sassy back to him, right? They're like, how do you feel about this job? And he says, I lack enthusiasm. He basically throws their words back at him. So he's kind of being a problem child.
Honestly, Norm is
vault.
probably another one of my favorite characters. He's great.
Right? I did really like him at
the
first.
buttons to push.
It
Exactly.
took me a minute to realize, but I know who Betty is now. Now that I sit here and like look
Yes.
at it's Deadpool's neighbor.
You're right.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
It's the
it
blind
is.
lady in Deadpool.
Yes.
I was trying so hard to pinpoint like who is she? I know I've seen her in something
Right?
else.
That's awesome. Good callback. I did not think about that.
Yeah,
Sweet.
like literally, I saw something about it yesterday. I'm like,
hilarious.
there's no way. And then rewatching like the episode today, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, it is. It definitely is.
Straight up.
Just without the
Cool.
gray hair.
Cool. I love when actors like that are actually getting into more stuff. Like, but anyway, so yeah, Norm lacks enthusiasm, and Betty and the crew, like, there's 3 of them right now. They're in charge. They're like the council. They're trying to find a job for him, and I think it's Betty actually who's the one that says like, actually, I think we got a job for you after all, and that kind of ends the scene, and we don't know what the job's going to be, but the next scene immediately
Norm
tells
does
you.
talk about like he's like, I just think it's great that we punish the vault dwellers, but what about like the raiders who came in and killed people? Like, are we punishing them as well? And then that's when she says like, oh, I think we have a job for you after all.
So he kind of like prompts her to come up with the job then. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So Norm keeps pushing buttons. You're right. And him being like, listen, we're punishing us. We literally have murderers that we're holding on to, which is this sentence is actually how we find out they're holding on to the murderers. We thought all the raiders left, but apparently they captured some of them. So
I feel like all vaults come standard with like some sort of jail cell / holding cell.
But that's the thing. They didn't even, I'm pretty sure they don't use the
No,
holding
they
cell.
converted it
No.
from something.
It used to be their reading room. Yeah.
They put all these raiders in there with a bunch of books. But yeah, so like that's the next scene is like he's pushing up a food cart and he like looks in the room, the reading room, because they give them all their food and stuff and they're ripping it out of there. And all these raiders are just acting like animals. They're like throwing stuff, breaking stuff. They take the food and they throw it up against the freaking windows and they scream at Norm through the window. Like it's just
They're like, I'm gonna eat your face.
yeah, I'm gonna eat your face. Like they're just
I think
yelling
at one
stuff at him.
point they scream at the old lady too and tell her they're gonna eat her effing heart.
Yeah, no, they're just not the nicest people, right? And the whole goal here is to rehabilitate them, which I think is hilarious because it's like, what do you mean rehabilitate these guys? Look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was interesting because that's like his new job, but really it's like unpleasant to see those people, but he doesn't have to go in the room. He literally is just the food cart boy. So
I hate to say it, I got some like ulterior motive vibes from Betty when she said, "Now that I
Oh.
think about it, I do have a job for you." Like, is something gonna happen to them? I don't like how she just immediately was like, "I got something for you."
I felt like it was a punishment for him for just being sassy. She's like, all right, you don't, you have a problem with how we're dealing with them, then you go deal with the Raiders.
yeah, you get the worst part. You have to
I don't
be
know. I
face to
guess
face.
part of me thinks Betty has a higher perception than like we're giving her credit for. Like, I feel like she
Mhm.
knows what Norm's up to.
I think we're gonna see Vault 33 fall apart. Like it's already started, but I
I want
think
to see Vault 31. I want to know what's going on there. Damn it.
maybe eventually we might because it's connected. Why wouldn't they pull it in? And I
Well,
think Vault 31.
Betty does say in that conversation, she's like, I called over or I telegrammed over to Vault 31 and thank goodness they're unscathed or something
Yeah,
like that.
so they did check in with them, so apparently they're fine. I don't know. I think we're gonna see Vault 33 fall apart here, and I think we're kind of seeing the beginnings of like some power struggles. It seems like Betty's in charge, but the other two guys are kind of fighting for the title of overseer in a way. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
seems like they're definitely trying to vie for power there, but it seems like Betty's the one that has like the power
Aren't they supposed to vote for Overseer?
apparently. But they all seem to be like a council and like not trying to vote. I don't know. They seem incompetent, but maybe there's more. We'll have to find out.
There's more to this whole thing a little bit later in the episode, so.
Okay, and then we after that scene, we move back to Thaddeus and Max. And it starts, and this is what Snicker was talking about. There's a little bit more hazing here on Thaddeus. There's like this literal like dead tree. There's nothing on this tree, and Max has made Thaddeus climb all the way up to the top of it, searching for like an apple or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Thaddeus is like, I don't see any apples. And Max is like, go higher. Like, keep climbing. And kind of like pushes him to the point where I think doesn't Thaddeus fall out of the tree?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
the branch
falls
he's
hard.
standing on like breaks,
Breaks?
and then he just falls flat on his back, and then like,
Oh.
gets the wind knocked out of him, and he's just sitting there, and he's like, he's just like making
Right, just like,
funny
oh my
wind knocked
gosh.
out of you noises. But
Yeah. So like kind of the bullying is happening, but it's back now. Max is kind of getting a little bit of revenge. And this is crazy because Thaddeus is just like the most loyal squire. He's like, you can have my own rations. Like, I don't need them since I couldn't find the apple. You can eat my food. And then Max like chuckles to himself and is like, I'm not hungry anymore. Like just totally messing with the guy. So then after that, Max is messing with him. Max is like, well, we still got to go find this artifact. And Thaddeus recommends that they fix his radio. And of course, Max kind of like freaks out because Thaddeus is like, we'll fix it and call in reinforcements. And Max knows that the more people there, the more likely they are to find out that he's not Knight Titus. So he's like, nuh-uh, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go find the target on our own. Like, we'll have the glory for it. We'll find the target. And he says basically that he's seen him, right? Like they have this conversation, and Thaddeus finds out that he's seen him, seen the scientist, and that he saw like a ghoul. And he's like, oh, like ghoul, like those are scary, but I bet you just killed it, right? And Max is like, nah, no, like if we find the ghoul, we'll find the scientist. And Thaddeus is like, wait, you left him alive? And at first it kind of seems awkward because like the Brotherhood of Steel is supposed to stomp out any like abominations,
Which
right?
makes them no better than the Enclave.
It really doesn't, but like it's the same concept, right? Like they want to kill stuff like that and then take the technology for themselves. At first you're like, "Oh no, is there going to be a conflict here?" And then Thaddeus is like, "Wait, no, actually that's a great idea. We can use our like radiation tracker device to basically track the ghoul." And so like that's actually kind of a cool way of explaining how they're going to follow the path. But I don't think Max was thinking that at all. Like Max was things just happened, right? Like Max wasn't thinking, "Oh yeah, we can totally track him," which kind of shows like Thaddeus is kind of intelligent and has ideas of how to do it, and is kind of like drawing his own conclusions as a squire, and he's trying to like please Knight Titus because he wants to be a knight someday.
He's trying to be useful.
Exactly. So he's trying to like do as much as he can. So he's pretty excited, and he goes like, "Glory awaits!" And like he's convinced that him and Max are gonna go find it themselves.
I thought it was funny that Thaddeus was like, "Glory awaits," when like a few scenes prior to that, Max was like, "Yes, my squire died with honor and glory." So
Yeah.
that's like another thing. Like, you didn't actually get that glory, but here we go. Glory awaits this way.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get to see the bear fight, like, and the
No.
lack of glory thereof, right?
Yeah.
Like, so Maximus is already a little like, no, the wasteland sucks, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But
So that radiation tracker thing that Thaddeus pulls out is an actual thing that was used during the uranium prospecting days and stuff.
Really?
Yes, like that is an actual thing that is used to detect radiation and stuff.
so basically, they went and found the
They
technology.
went out and actually bought, well, more or less like the prop department went out and actually found something that was used for what they're kind of trying to make it do here.
Well, I was thinking more the Brotherhood of Steel went and found that technology, and so that's like some of the junk they just have.
Yes,
Right?
fair enough, but I mean, like, IRL, that is a real thing. That
The
is
legit
used.
one.
Yes.
They didn't make it. Yeah, that's cool. Not surprising.
That is cool.
But that's cool.
They got some real radioactive material to put on to the ghoul to make it work.
No, the ghoul's just radioactive himself, dude. He's been literally fried by radiation to become what he is.
Radified.
Ratified.
Which is, I
Ratified.
think it's. I was looking at this, and I thought it was crazy that they could still pick up the ghoul's like trail with all the other radiation around. So he must be like really radiated.
Yeah, which is like, remember we talked about like the scene earlier where she's like seeing like it could be the gulper, it could be the water, it could be anything, but it's him. He's what's causing like, yeah, he must be putting off some radiation, man. You get
And
like
maybe
secondhand
that
cancer.
yeah. Maybe that device has like some way to cancel out the
Like
just
background.
inactive radiation that's just there in the environment.
Possibly. We don't know. But
Yeah.
basically the ghoul's putting off enough that they can track him.
Yeah.
So
I was also thinking with this when Thaddeus pulls out that radiation tracker thing, because like we see this gigantic bag that the squires are toting around that's as big as they are, and you're like, what the heck is in that bag? Like
Everything.
bunch of junk.
everything. And it's cool
Toaster
to
oven.
see like Thaddeus actually starts pulling stuff out of the bag and like using the bag
Yep.
now.
And I mean,
yeah.
to be fair, like so did Max, but he just didn't have any like tools to pull out like that he needed. He pulled out
Yeah.
a gun. So
Yeah. Thaddeus is a little more resourceful, it seems like.
yeah, like I said, it may be higher intelligence skill. But they walk for more. So basically, they start tracking, and they walk for a bit, and they come across Wilzig's headless body, which remember at the beginning of the episode, the ghoul had found. So like they're that far behind. This is actually kind of a funny part because there's no head. There's just the body. And Max says, like, can you hold up like the wanted poster again? And Thaddeus like holds up the wanted poster to like the headless body, and Max is like, "Yup, that's him." You're just like, how do
Undoubtedly.
you know? Like, I guess he kind of looks like a scientist's body. I don't know.
It had like the top of his like shirt in the poster, so maybe he like matched it up with
The collar,
the rest
it's
of
the
the
same shirt.
Possibly.
right?
It's just like that is so wild because like that could have been any old man's like
Especially in the wasteland,
body.
right? But I guess the radiation led them to there, right?
Yeah,
and they're
it is
following
on the
ghoul.
trail.
So basically, they're like, the ghoul did this, which is funny because Lucy did it. And both of them are like, the ghoul did it for sure. Like,
Oh yeah, totally.
The ghoul did it for sure. And you're like,
There's no way the
"What?"
nice girl could have done this.
Right.
I
Are you
know.
sure about that?
And Thaddeus
Are you
is
sure
like,
about that?
damn ghouls.
Yeah, damn ghouls. And so like Thaddeus is gonna try and use his tracker again, but Max just notices that there's just some footprints, and they just start following those footprints instead. So they're behind, they're tracking them, they're on their way. And then we go back to Lucy, who last time we left, the ghoul had basically taken her captive. And now the ghoul has her tied up, like strapped to a like dock crane thing. And he's got her like over the water. And she starts freaking out and saying, like, wait, please don't do this. Like, be chill. Like, you don't need to torture me. And the ghoul finishes tying her up and just dunks her into the water immediately.
And she's got like an anchor tied to her too.
Yeah, so it's like pulling her down hard so that she stays in the water and can't like get out of it.
Wouldn't that snap her neck?
I don't think it was tied around her neck.
I
It
was
was
gonna
like
say, I know when I first looked at
her
it, it
torso.
kind of looked that way, and that was the same question I had then too. Is wouldn't that just
snaps
kill
her
her?
neck.
The ropes are just kind of everywhere on her.
Well, this also begs the question: why doesn't the ghoul just kill her? I guess because he doesn't have the item yet. So like maybe he's like she's gonna be useful.
I was gonna say he probably knows that she's gonna be useful to him.
Well, because
Or
I
he's
did
gonna do a
like
Baldur's Gate thing, and
possibly, yeah, I don't know, but he's basically dunking her in and out of the water, and she's like, "Don't torture me." And this is where the ghoul has a great monologue where he talks about like, they've been torturing people for years. And he's like, honestly, as time's gone on, I've seen them torturing more people. Like, it's only increased. He's like, but I don't think it actually works. Like, there's some studies done that said, like, torturing a person doesn't do anything. And he basically is like, people just torture people to torture people. And Lucy's like, well, why are you doing this? And he's like, well, I ain't torturing you, sweetheart. I'm using you as bait.
gone fishing.
Yeah, we're going fishing. I need to find that head. Like, and then he dunks her again, right? So now we're to the part where he's dunking her. He's trying to get to be his bait. And Lucy's underwater and she sees like the shadow of the gulper moving towards her. So she starts freaking out. And the ghoul's like, oh, she's freaking out. It must be like, the gulper's coming. So he starts pulling up the wheel crank and it breaks. So like his thing breaks and she's stuck there, which is like, oh crap. Like, is she going to get bit? Like what's going to happen is like, and he like gets a hook thing, pulls the crane over, rips her onto the dock. And that's when the gulper jumps up onto the dock with his arms. And we get a really good look at the gulper.
So many fingers.
It's so fingery
in the
his
wrong
neck.
places.
Why are there fingers?
It's
Like,
probably
why are
been
they fingers?
mutated with like human or something for it to have that many human fingers.
Right, human fingers, and then like the human-looking arm, hand.
The human-looking eyes, almost.
Yeah. No,
The eyes to me were very unsettling, and they looked a little too realistic to be like
right.
a monster.
This gulper definitely was like morphed between a couple things, and one of them was probably some humans. But yeah, it's got like
It's
this
nasty.
freaking fingery mouth, and it like she's like trying to kick it. Lucy's trying to kick it away, but
His
like
little fingers are grabbing her.
yeah, the little fingers are grabbing her and like pulling her in, and like they got her boot and stuff. And they pull her boot in, and the ghoul grabs like a spear and starts like jabbing it. And Lucy's rope breaks or something. And
The rope tying her to the anchor, because the anchor's now stuck in its mouth.
Yeah, okay, so that's what happened. He like got the anchor. He's like pulling it in, so he's pulling Lucy. The rope breaks. The ghoul's trying to jab it, but the gulper like smacks him. Gets Lucy's boot, and like the ghoul's like saddlebags nearby, so she grabs it and she smacks the gulper with the bag, and the gulper like lets go of her foot, takes her boot, and slips back into the water. And the gulper saliva's like it's almost like a disintegrating. Yeah, it's like very acidic or something.
It's very thick and slimy too. It's nasty.
Oh, one thing I did notice during this scene, and I don't know if it's just me, but the ghoul looks dirty.
His makeup, his special effects makeup, because I noticed this too. Like when he gets back after the gulper like tosses him, and he gets back up and he's like looking all frustrated. Like the makeup around his mouth looks like it's kind of peeling away, and it could be because he's partly dirty too. But like I don't know, his makeup seems to be struggling a little bit at that point. But it looks better before and after that. So I think that was just a very like action-packed sequence that his
Like,
ghoul mask was
moved around.
struggling. Yeah.
Yeah, because I noticed a couple of different times, like, definitely, like, the inside of his mouth is, like, way pinker than the rest of him. And, like, I understand that. It's just, I don't know how to put it. Over the course of, like, the first episode and the second episode compared to now, it seems like he himself has gotten all dirty and grimy. And I don't know if that's them working really well with the makeup department, or if they just happened to get the shade slightly off on that, like, couple of scenes.
And probably both, right? Now he's trekking across the
Yeah.
wasteland, and they're probably like, it was apparently a big challenge to keep all that makeup on his face, and like they had to put in
Especially if you're
gross teeth. And
sweating
oh yeah, it was
in
probably
like
super
the
hot.
desert,
Oh yeah,
sweating
they're
all
in the
that makeup off.
desert. Yeah, it just kind of sucked. They were in Africa, right? Like that's where we said they filmed part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So probably a little hot, probably a little humid. So the ghoul's watching the Gulper get away, and then he sees his bag, and he sees that the drugs that he was doing earlier are all like crushed and broken. And basically he's like, he's pissed, right? He's like, motherfucker! And he aims his gun right at her. Like he's just gonna blow her head away. And she's like, I should have just let you use me as bait in the poison river. Right? Like, and he's like, kind of like, you're right. And so he drops the gun. And this is probably like the best thing ever, because she's all like, you can't treat people like that. And he's like, why? And she's like, was the golden rule. The ghoul's just kind of ignoring her. And he's like, well, I've got time. Gulpers digest really slow. He's thinking about it. And then he grabs Lucy by the neck, like with some rope. And she's like, where are we going? And he's like, listen, the wasteland's got its own golden rule. And this is probably my favorite line in the whole thing so far. Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time.
So
And-
perfect.
Direct nod to, even if you want to do the main quest, guess what? You're getting 90 different side quests to do before you finish it.
Right, you want to go from point A to point B, but guess what? There's like C, D, E, F, G, H. Like you're gonna get so distracted trying to get to where you need to be. So it was a really good nod to the video game, and it was just really funny. Just perfect.
Also,
yeah.
I just want to say his plan to like catch the Gulper, I don't think was a great plan.
Why?
Well, like
yeah, how is he gonna like
'cause it played
capture the
out-
Gulper once it like?
He's
yeah,
gonna
'cause it
kill
played
it.
out exactly like he wanted, and
I don't know why he just didn't shoot it in the head instead of poking it.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it didn't
Well,
play
I
out.
mean, we can go over that a little bit later on in the episode.
Okay.
There's a reason. Okay.
Well, yes. Because if I remember correctly, the Gulper gets shot and it does like nothing to it anyway.
Oh, I think you're right.
So
Okay,
like,
we'll get there. But
yeah.
because I'm pretty sure that was an energy weapon. But we'll get there. I guess I think the dog goes with him. But do you think the dog stays
Nope.
behind?
Dog stays behind because she's like, wait, what about the dog? And the ghoul's like, nah, he ain't mine.
He's not my dog.
Yeah.
They're not my dog.
I pet your dog.
They're not my dog. All right, and mid-episode update, the Banana has been able to join us. He is here. How's it going, Banana? And what's your favorite character so far in the Fallout TV show?
It's going a lot better. My favorite character in the TV show, actually, so far, is especially from in episode 3, Maximus gets a new squire, and I actually like the whole squire thing right there.
Oh,
So
That's a,
That's two for Thaddeus.
that's what TooRissky said.
I was like, I actually really like Thaddeus. Like episode 3 made me like Thaddeus.
yeah, I like Thaddeus.
So random. I kind of get it. He's kind of like the goofy comedy. I don't know. He's the decent character this
Well,
episode.
at first I was like, "Oh, this guy is mean," and then he's like explains like, "Yeah, I only did it because."
Well, we haven't done that yet, but like, yeah, like,
Yes.
so okay.
Yeah. Just their
Interesting.
banter, their back and forth banter is just really fun.
Yeah, to me that's the kicker. It's like
Better than
listening to these
Night-Titus.
Night Titus, and he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm just trying to refill your water." It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry then."
Yeah.
So
But-
yes,
That part comes later.
that is
All
my
right,
guy.
you've missed quite a bit, Banana, but we're like almost halfway through. We'll just jump right into the next scene, and we're back with Max, and he's looking through a pile of junk, and he finds deviled eggs, and Thaddeus like basically walks up behind him and starts messing with his helmet, and Max like freaks out because he doesn't want Thaddeus to find out who he is. He's like, I'm trying. This is what you were talking about. He's like, I was trying to refill your water, like so you can stay hydrated. And Max is like, oh, okay, and like lets him refill the
Such a
water.
good, caring squire.
Right? Like Thaddeus seems like the best squire. Like
That's one thing I noticed is like, dude, how does Thaddeus know so like this? I'm like, Maximus walks in, it's like, dude, this guy's just getting shafted everywhere. He walks in, it's like, yeah, I already know how to be a squire, and it's like, okay.
Right? Like, he's doing a pretty good job.
I mean,
And
it's probably why Maximus wasn't picked in the first place.
You think so?
I mean, truthfully,
he was
that
still-
makes sense.
he was still picked over. So we talked about, like, I think Maximus is more of a strength endurance build, right? I would say Thaddeus is probably more of an intelligence build.
Intelligence, charisma, or intelligence
Yeah.
perception.
I mean, we find out he was just as crapped on, which is what this scene is, which is perfect. Banana entered right when he got to talk about it. But yeah, so this whole scene takes place where Thaddeus is kind of making small talk with him. And he's like, what's it like being a knight? I bet you've seen some stuff. And then Thaddeus tells us his backstory. He used to be a shitter on a fly farm. So they would feed him, and then he'd shit, and they'd give the shit to the flies, and then they would mulch them all up, and then sell it as protein.
Oh.
And that's why he says this so nonchalant. He's like, anyway, that's why I'm fat.
You're like, wait, you're fat? It must be fat for the wasteland?
Wasteland, yeah, because he doesn't look fat at all. Like,
And that's why I'm fat. It's like,
but then Max
Okay.
kind of pushes his buttons. Is like, hey, I know you know like the past squire that served me. Talking about himself, he says like, say something about him. And Thaddeus is like, I don't really want to, like, he was fine, like he was a good guy or whatever.
He's
and Max
dead,
is like,
this
no.
feels kind of weird.
Right? Max is like, no, say something negative. And Thaddeus is like, he's dead, so yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't want to like talk anything.
I don't want to talk shit on him.
I don't want to talk crap about the dead. And Max is like, it's an order, my squire.
And he's like, all right.
And this is when Thaddeus actually drops a bomb on Max, where he says like, to be honest, we were pretty hard on the guy. We basically beat the crap out of him all the time. And he's like, it wasn't personal. It was just like the group of guys at the base. And then he tells him like, I used to be that guy. They were beating the crap out of me all the time. And I was basically just being the one that was bullied. So when new recruits came, one of them was Maximus. And I had this funny idea that we should beat the shit out of him instead.
And it worked.
And it worked. So, like, he became really popular with the guys for basically being like, hey, we should beat somebody else up instead. And it was kind of an interesting scene here because he was basically like, he's like, I know it was it's like the law of the wasteland that everybody dies and stuff, but he still feels bad. It's kind of interesting because Max kind of gets to consider here, and he's like, this is how this guy was being treated. Like, it makes so much more sense that he was a bully to me. And he says, don't worry about it. It's the law of the wasteland, just like you said. Let's go. We're losing daylight. And Max stands up and they head out. And it's kind of just a real character building moment for not only Max, but for Thaddeus as well. So I kind of get why you guys like Thaddeus. He definitely, like, he's not a bad person, but he definitely, he's kind of like Max. There's just some moral gray area in being in the Brotherhood. And I think they're really painting that picture.
I think he's going to make Max a better person.
I could also imagine it's like, you're the only one who gets picked on. It's like, finally someone new shows up. It's like, you're like, wait, guys, I have an idea. Let's beat up that loser instead. And they're like, that's a damn good idea.
Damn good deal.
Because, like, I'd get it. After a while being picked on, sure, does it suck to have to push it on someone else? Yeah, but then it's like, well, at least I'm no longer being bullied.
Pretty much, right? Like,
it's a catch-22.
It sucks, but at the same time, like, he said it worked for him, and he's like, I felt bad, but, like, I also didn't want to get the crap beat out of me, so.
But at that moment, they kind of come to an understanding a little bit, even though it's like...
Well, Max does, right? Because Thaddeus still thinks it's Knight Titus, so he doesn't realize who he's telling.
Yeah. But I can see them becoming besties down the road.
Besties. Brotherhood besties. Yeah, I'm betting someone's gonna... I wouldn't be surprised if Thaddeus either dies or sacrifices himself.
No.
Or something weird's gotta happen. You don't think so?
I think those two have plot armor.
Well, I guess
Max is gonna get made. Like, Thaddeus will figure out that it's Max, not Titus. And they'll probably have some sort of, like, Thaddeus is going
moment.
to try and do the right thing and be like, no, we got to tell. And then Max is going to be like, no, we can actually do this on our own again. And then they become like a good team.
That's what we're hoping.
My guess.
That's what we're
It's
hoping.
either going to be that or Thaddeus is going to die in a really inglorious way. Like falling into like a toilet or something. Like it's going to be really bad.
I'm just
really
going to see
sad.
all this as it's going to bite Maximus in the butt.
Yep. That's kind of what I'm thinking, is that it's not going to go well. But okay. They start walking off again. They're doing the tracking. And then we come back to Vault 33. It's like immediately to the prisoners that Norm was helping. They're all freaking out and stuff. And then we hear kind of like it's on, basically it goes to like it's like a, what's that called?
Assembly.
Thank you. They're having an assembly. And the two guys, Betty's sitting down, but the two other dudes that were part of the council are up there both giving this speech. And they're kind of saying all these things like, we can judge a person in a society by how they treat their enemy. Here we are with 16 highly violent individuals incarcerated for our own temporary repurposed reading room. It's an ethical dilemma like nothing we've dealt with before. Like, they're trying to basically be like, what do we do about these people? But they're saying a lot of words and they're not saying anything, right?
Like they're saying big boy words, but the big boy words are still just like
Nonsense.
it's like, so in conclusion, yes, it's like, what? It's like, exactly.
And they're like fighting over the microphone this entire time, like pulling it
swinging it back
to
and
them,
forth.
and then the other guy pulls it to himself, and it's funny.
Yeah, it's really not going anywhere. And so they're trying to figure out what to do. And I'm pretty sure Norm like smirks at them or something.
No,
Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
I think they're talking and they're like getting ready to talk about like what they should do with the people. And
Betty even says at some point, Betty says, I think this conversation would benefit from some actual ideas. And that's when, okay. Yeah, no, there's a ton in this speech because then
there's a lot.
Reg says like, well, you know what? The young man Woody I interrogated this morning, he left an impression on me. Isn't that the gentleman who showed you his butthole? Yeah, but I took that as a desire to communicate, to reach out across the cultural divide. Right? He was showing him his butthole. So like, they're talking about this and they kind of lay out their game plan and they're like, you know what? We lost a bunch of people. We've got 16 suitable other people from outside. We should try and rehabilitate the prisoners and integrate them into our society. Yeah, and it immediately shows, I don't know if you guys remember the pregnant lady that got stabbed in the eye by the fork in the first episode.
Yeah.
But it goes over to her and she's just pissed. Because obviously they killed her husband. She's like, we should kill these guys. And then it cuts to Norm, and Norm just looks so tired of their bullshit.
I think they asked Norm about his opinion, or like what he thinks.
Because that's when he scoffs, and they're like, do you have something to share, Norm?
No, because he scoffs at that, because another guy says, like, I could teach them Shakespeare.
And some lady's like, well, isn't Shakespeare a bit sophisticated for them?
We should do some more moral framework, like Kant, Mill, etc. Like, just they start being like all weird about it.
And then another guy's like, I can teach them intro to calculus.
Yeah, intro to calculus. Like, we're gonna teach these raiders how to do calculus.
How is this going to rehabilitate these savages?
Right? It just doesn't make any sense.
Raiders, I can't teach you a lot, but you know what? I can teach you calculus.
Yeah, you guys want to calculate the curve of this? Like, yeah, stupid. So Norm scoffs at that, and that's when they're like, what do you think, Norm? And Norm's like, well, I don't think it's our job to help these people. They murdered our people. Like, they don't know any better. Like, they're bad. So why are we trying to help them? And that's when, like, the assembly's like, well, we got to formally educate. And they kind of just move on and keep having their dumb freaking communication. And then Norm's like, well, we could do what they did to us, which is basically kill them. And this is when you see that pregnant lady, she like turns over and she's like kind of giving Norm the eye, like, I kind of like this guy's idea. And so like maybe some more people in the vault are kind of feeling that, right?
Oh,
like,
I totally misunderstood that look then.
Oh, what
right?
were you thinking?
I thought she had some like other feelings for Norm right then and there.
Oh, yeah. And Norm is single.
Maybe she's newly single. She has a kid on the way, and Norm is saying things she likes. And we saw how willing Lucy was to like immediately start having babies. So it's kind of that mentality in the vault, I suppose. But I think it's more like she's like, I like what Norm's saying, right? Because now
Somebody's
they're
actually
leaderless.
willing to do something.
Yeah, they lost their overseer. They have this stupid council.
No one's really willing to take any action. Norm's kind of willing to stand up and take action.
Exactly.
Yeah, that part where Norma's like, we can do what they would have done to us. That sounds like the golden rule. Do unto the others as you would have done unto you. And Lucy, in the last scene that we saw her, was talking to the ghoul about the golden rule. So we see that the golden rule is very integrated into like the vault dwellers' personalities, their ideology.
Yes.
So it's like another callback to that.
So that's perfect, right? Perfect callback to the ideology in that moral compass. Like the whole show's about a moral compass, and it's kind of cool. But yeah, basically Betty actually dismisses Norm's comment saying that the murders and raiders, they're like is not under consider. What did she say?
She's
I
like,
thought she
obviously the like murdering is not under serious consideration, and the audience is like, oh yeah, here.
Yeah,
See,
right.
I
She's
thought
saying like,
she
no, we're
was
not going
like,
to kill him.
Norm was just expressing a feeling, that's all, and then kind of
Right.
Yeah,
Well, this is where he
no.
gets his best dig, though. Because then he goes like, I'm sorry, you're right. It's not my intention to question your leadership, overseer. And that's when both the Reg and the Woody dude, the guys that have been competing for like the mic, they both lean in and say thank you. And then they both look at each other like, wait.
I thought I was the overseer.
So he like kind of like sows some discord between them and kind of like causes a rift. And this is hilarious. An engineer comes in.
This is my favorite part.
And is like, hey guys, we should have a conversation in private. And they're all like, no, just tell everybody. Like, don't worry about it. And then he's all like, well, you know, the last overseer would have said we should have this conversation quietly and like not publicly. And the council's like, no, we're in charge now. We're all a collective. Don't worry about it. Like really playing into the like goodness of the democracy.
Like whatever you have to say can be said in front of the whole assembly.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And the guy's like, okay, so we have 2 months of water and it's gonna suck. And
the water chip is broken.
It's the events of Fallout 1 all over again.
Right? And the council quickly is like, hold on, that's enough. They're like, wait a second.
So.
And then he's like, and let alone, we don't even have enough food. He's like, that's not even counting for your prisoners. And they're just like,
we gotta feed the food to the prisoners. We don't have water for them.
Just another point to like get rid of them. Because you don't have enough water, you know.
Or food.
So everyone starts getting up and leaving because they're like, okay, well, this whole thing is a joke. This whole thing is bad. And that's when the pregnant lady's Steph, by the way.
Yeah.
So Steph stops Norm as they're all leaving, and she's like, hey, you're right. If your dad was here, he would do the right thing. Kind of planting the seeds in Norm that, like, you should do something.
Norm will be the next overseer.
Ooh.
Honestly, he's got overseer vibes. I could see him becoming overseer.
That is a job that he hasn't been assigned to yet.
I don't think that's a job that they're going to give him, though.
No. I think there's going to have to be some more.
I think we're going to get some factions, right? Like I said, the vault's going to fall apart here.
I think the vault's going to split into twos.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe half of the vault is going to go to Vault 32 and kind of like make camp there since they're separated, if they separate.
That could be interesting.
Well, at that point, they would no longer be residents of Vault 33.
Well, there's probably more jumpsuits over there.
Well, I mean, if anything, they would probably become residents of Vault 32 itself, like repair it or whatever, and try to make it rehabitable.
The possibility.
Because if you think about it, only 2 of those vaults are functioning right now, 31 and 33. Wouldn't it make a little bit of sense to try to clean up and
regain some safe
32?
Yeah.
Well, it depends how messed up 32 was.
Well, and how many people they have, because their main concern was incest. So they would have to maybe take some people from Vault 31 and from Vault 33 and then go repopulate Vault 32.
They could take the Raiders.
This year, you're still going to now definitely be running out of people because you got one less group of candidates to get a pool from.
Exactly. So it's not looking great.
Is Vault 32 is in shambles. Was that a result of lack of care for the crops? Or was that a
Or is it the
result
Raiders?
of like radiation leaking in,
I
and
think it was
like
the
plants
Raiders.
just can't grow? I mean, you think it was the Raiders? They came in and like maybe
Yeah.
invaded
Well,
and
I
if
killed
they're
off
don't
32?
anything,
think so. Because I feel like when they show us the inside of 32 for a split second, it looks like that damage was there way before Raiders got there.
It hasn't been lived in a long time.
That's exactly like kind of the feeling I got was like, oh, what happened in 32? How does 33 not know? Like,
yeah, why have they taken so long to communicate? Why do they ignore each other so much? Why are they not more connected? So we just have more questions, more questions than anything. But moving right along, we finish off that the seeds planted for Norm to try and take over, and then now we're back with Maximus and Thaddeus, but we're coming up on the where Lucy and the Ghoul were, where they like basically tried to bait the Gulper, and then they got sidetracked, and then they had to leave. So they've already left, but now Thaddeus and Maximus have like basically tracked him here, and interesting, like they're used to the wasteland, but they immediately start wading into the water because that's where they say
No.
the radiation's going.
Well, did you know? Like, it's because Thaddeus the whole time is like carrying this like cannon gun thing that just like points to where like the location of your objective is, and it's just like
Sure, but like you think that you'd use your common sense and be like, okay, let's make sure that it's in the lake by walking all the way around it to see
no,
if
they just pointed the
maybe.
gun in.
They
No, the
just
guy just
start
was like,
wading
let's go into the water.
waist deep right away.
Yeah, it just seems
I
like a
wouldn't touch
terrible
that
idea.
water.
Yeah, isn't that
Right.
water super radiated?
Right, that too. Like you're in the wasteland. Why would you trust anything? Just say. But yeah, so this is good. They all of a sudden see in the water like some ripples, like a gulper's coming, and that's when like Thaddeus is like, okay, I'll like step forward, and Max is like, nah, get back on the shore. And Thaddeus actually thanks him here, which
He's
is
like,
kind of
thank
cool.
you.
Right? It's like, thank you, and then runs. And so Max is facing up against this gulper, and I think he pulls out a laser rifle here.
no, I mean, to me, that looked like a pretty standard just gun.
I swear it was like a laser pistol or something.
No, it looked like a normal.
I don't remember seeing any laser rounds or anything.
It seemed like it was bullets of some sort.
Well, does he even fire it?
He does.
To be fair, like, none of them connect.
Well, then which gun is it? Does it look like any of the ones we know?
It kind of looks like a cross between the 10mm and a pipe pistol.
Interesting.
You know what it actually reminds me of? It reminds me of the 12.5,
Oh, the 12.7mm.
yeah, gun from New Vegas era.
True.
Okay.
Well, because there's 12.7mm, then there's that gun which shoots the 5.56 rounds.
But yeah, so while he's shooting at him, right? Then he runs out of ammo
Every shot.
and it's not doing anything. So that I guess explains why maybe they didn't shoot the Ghoul didn't shoot him before. And then the thing, like the Gulper jumps out of the water about to get him and gets shot by Thaddeus, who's on the shoreline. He wasn't being useless. He went over there, grabbed a rifle. I can't remember. Was it was that the laser rifle? I feel like I saw.
That was just a
laser rifle.
standard assault rifle, my dude.
Lame. Where's my laser rifles? I swear.
I know,
seen
where's
them
any of the
places.
energy weapons?
I don't know. I guess I'm just seeing them in my. I guess it's probably cheaper to do regular weapons than energy weapons because you don't have to do like the laser stuff. But there's so much money in this. I don't know why they won. Maybe we'll get more later. Maybe we'll see like some knights do some battles or something.
So that gun he's been using is like I was like looking. Maximus has had like that on his hip the whole entire time.
He's just been holding on to it. I mean, is that the one he killed the Yaogoi with?
Yes.
Okay. I guess that makes sense.
Tank a Yao Guai with one bullet can't shoot a goal to save his life.
It looks like a thinner down version of a 10 mil. It looks like a 10 mil, just thinner. Because the 10 mils in the game are really chunky, but I think in this one they made them a little bit more sleek.
Maybe just better for handling or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter. It's a
The
prop.
only reason I didn't jump up and say it's a 10 is because I could have swore I saw a revolving chamber on that, like you would with a Magnum.
You know, it's when I saw that too.
So it's like, is this a modified 10mm that has like a revolving chamber in it?
Possibly. That'd be pretty sweet. But, okay. So, Thaddeus actually saves him. I don't know what gun Thaddeus was using, but Thaddeus saves him by shooting it.
I'm literally...
The Gulper doesn't even seem phased, looks over at Thaddeus, and starts rushing after him. And Thaddeus literally high-pitched screams. Like, just like, oh no.
I would too. That thing is disgusting.
So, and it grabs Thaddeus by the legs, I'm pretty sure, right? And starts dragging him back into the water.
Okay.
And this is when...
Sorry to cut you off. I can confirm what the gun is now.
Which one?
Okay, it is a Colt C6520, 10mm-ish. It's like a gun from like the original like Fallout 1 and 2s. It's like an old gun.
So it's like the older version of the
10mm?
10mm?
10mm from first two games.
Yeah.
Random. If I got the first game to run yesterday, I'm sure we would have known that.
Because I was literally looking it up, and a whole bunch of Reddit people are asking the same questions.
You know the Fallout fans. We have to know what every single weapon is and what they're using. What's their build. How they built their character.
Anyway, continue on, sir. Sorry about cutting you off.
Yeah, no, so it's like biting on Thaddeus. It's pulling him into the water. Max rushes over to help Thaddeus, and they're like tugging on him, and the fingers are like sticking to Thaddeus, and it's like trying to pull him in and stuff.
And it's actually kind of gross, if I'm being honest. Like,
it's
very
really
gross
disgusting.
scene.
Well, Thaddeus is screaming, right?
Too many fingers.
I guess Max like somehow gets some leverage, and he pulls Thaddeus out of the Gulper. But not only does Thaddeus come out, but like I guess Thaddeus must have been so deep in the Gulper and like stuck to it that he pulls out the entire like inside of the Gulper. So
like,
he rescues
turns it
Thaddeus
inside out like a sock. It's
right?
disgusting.
Like, he turns it inside out like a sock. That's disgusting. So like everything that it recently ate is pulled out too, including the head.
Boot.
And the boot.
And the
Lucy's
boot.
Oh.
So they find Lucy's boot and they find the head, and Thaddeus is like, "You saved me!" And Max actually, this is pretty cool with Max because he's like, "You saved me first." Like, he says that to him. And then they both look down and they see the head and they start celebrating because they finally got it. And this is where Dogmeat is, though, CX404, because he's licking the head. And so they look over the dog and they see the head and they're like, "Yes, we found the head." And so they begin cheering and celebrating.
Didn't Max see the boot first and kind of like start getting a little sad for like a split second, and then
like
Thaddeus,
he thought that she got eaten.
The head?
Yeah, he's like, "Wait, I think I recognize this boot."
But like, I guess
Would she have been in the stomach though? Because
that's right. Like that's what I'm thinking.
That the head survived the stomach.
Well, we don't know. We don't know how far behind they are. Right? It could have been a couple days. Maybe they could have. I guess the boot's still there. So time in this show seems a little interesting.
The Ghoul did also say that the Gulpers take a long time to digest, so that could
but like
days worth of food.
Well, then she would have been fine.
Yeah,
or she would have been in.
Maybe
intact.
he's just,
like a coma.
Yeah, maybe he's just realizing that he's on her trail.
Yeah, she was.
That she's involved, and that they might have to kill her eventually. Or you might think that she's dead, because honestly, if you found a boot in a monster's belly, you'd probably be like, the person's dead. But we've seen enough TV to know that that's not always the case.
Thaddeus is using the assault rifle from Fallout 4 with the drum mag.
Just
that
the drum
Fallout
mag.
4 assault rifle is so gross. I'm sorry.
It's just so
Anyone
fat.
who likes that, I'm sorry.
It's also got like a nice like ACOG scope on it or something.
I know,
like that.
but like if you look at the assault rifles we got in like 3 New Vegas.
This thing is like this thing is more like a railway rifle with a drum mag attached to the side of it.
I mean, it's all the bullets. And it looks proportionate to the power armor, but I'm with you, Dab Ninja. I never really liked the rifle. I thought they had better ones.
I think it looks fine. Yeah, like you said, with like if you're holding it with the power armor, looks fine. But if you're like just holding it as like the human, it looks like
huge.
It looks huge.
And that's probably why Thaddeus had to like set it up from the shore, because he couldn't even hold it upright.
Yeah.
In the picture I'm looking at, he's holding it up on an tire and like shooting the crap out of it. Big gun. It's meant for power armor more than anything. Yeah.
So they found it. They're celebrating, and now we're moving back to Lucy and the Ghoul.
I loved them celebrating. That was a cool. They're like, we found it. Yeah. High
coming
fives.
together, right?
Starts dancing around, and it's like, oh, good moment, good time, good stuff.
Right? There's
Celebrating like kids almost.
well, there's actual happiness for them now, right? Like, especially with how bad things have been going for Maximus.
Right.
He's got to have a luck of like 3.
Yeah.
I bet you, no, dude, Thaddeus has to have the luck. He's got intelligence and he's got luck because things are just working out now. We move back to Lucy and the Ghoul, and Lucy's trudging along. She's got basically like a rope leash that the Ghoul's leading, like having her lead by.
Actually, it's not there anymore. I noticed that continuity, like, because at the end of that scene, he puts like
does take her
the
off of
rope
the-
around her neck. But then this next scene that we see them
just
in, they're
has her
walking
hands
through the
up.
desert, and she's only got her hands tied up. There's nothing
that's-
around her neck anymore.
That's not really a big deal, I guess. Like it's like
No.
he could have switched it at any time, but
Yeah.
they're walking, and I think it's kind of like it's not as like. Does it feel like dusk almost? Like it's starting to get darker?
Yeah.
No.
It's just sandy out. I don't know.
Like it feels like this
Yeah.
all happened in like what, a day?
And
Just
this
another day in
scene
the wasteland.
also, it seems like, because I think it was in episode 2, she's walking past, like, through this neighborhood of blown out houses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's a perfect neighborhood. Like, they're on a row, like, sort of a thing. And then we see that again here. So it seems like the Ghoul is almost like backtracking.
Probably. He needs to get his drugs, is what it seems like. So where are they going for these drugs? I guess is the question.
Yeah.
So they're
The
trekking.
obvious answer is they have to go to the store.
Back
No,
to
I'm
Philly.
kidding.
Yeah.
I'm
Back
just
to
being
Philly.
a smart ass.
No, you're not wrong. They just return to Philly, or what if they go back to the vaults? Like, what if
No,
they
I'm
go
thinking
trade
they're
with Vault
going
31?
I think they're going to Mad Maud or whatever her name is,
Majun.
June.
Majun. Because I'm thinking she's the raider. She's probably got all the drugs.
Possibly.
I
But he
mean,
didn't leave that town under good circumstances because he killed a
the
lot of people.
only thing I could think of is if they were to pull something from like Fallout 3 where you have to loot through a super duper mart to find like emergency medical supplies.
That could be fun.
You just see the Ghoul and here looting through a building.
Right.
See 'em looting
Honestly.
through old rundown grocery stores, opening everything, breaking crap apart.
That'd be true to the game.
But we don't know where they're headed. So they're headed somewhere. And they have an interaction here where basically, like, she's thirsty and wants some water. And the Ghoul's, like, taking a break and he's drinking a ton of water and just looking at her while he's drinking it. And she's, like, begging for water. And then he just literally, like, pours some of the water out just to be cruel. There's, like, a puddle of water behind a car and it's full of radiation.
It's gross.
Pip-Boy's telling her that. And the Ghoul says, water, water everywhere and not a drop to drink. Ain't much stays clean up here, Vaulty. You'll see. And then Lucy says, is that what happened to you? Radiation? And the Ghoul kind of looks away and says something like that. So, like, he doesn't confirm that that's how he became a Ghoul.
But why would you tell this stranger anything about you?
Well, is it not? Is it so
'Cause
much
he
like
doesn't
he doesn't
care.
confirm, or is it the possibility that he doesn't quite understand how he turned into a ghoul?
Possibly, right? Like,
We
so
don't
we
know.
don't know, and maybe he doesn't know, but Lucy's curious
Exactly,
because
like-
we've been curious. And she looks up and sees a Vault Boy billboard, and she kind of smiles because she, like, finds encouragement from it, right? All those posters, all the Vault Boys. And the Ghoul takes his gun out and he shoots the billboard where the Vault Boy's face is. And it kind of shows that he's not very happy with Vault-Tec. A lot of implications there, some history that we may not know. And that brings us to the final scene of this episode. And we're back to the beginning with the actor Coop, which is the Ghoul, but before the bombs fell, which I think is so cool. Like, I think they keep doing this with their episodes pretty decently, where they really, like, the beginning and the end work together, right? So we're back to Coop, and he's doing his costume change from the very first scene, and it's a Vault suit. It's his colors, the blue and the yellow, right? And so, like, his wife's kind of flirting with him, and she's like, you ready to meet these suits? She's talking about, like, Vault-Tec reps. So they go in there, and, like, Coop shakes their hand, and they're like, oh, we're so happy to have you as part of the family. Like, it's going to be great. Glad we could get the connections to you and stuff. Coop's like, I've never done advertisements before, but, my wife asked me to do it, so I'm going to do it. And they all kind of, like, laugh and stuff. And then he gets onto the stage. He makes some awkward jokes and says, like, I'm so glad to be working with you, doing God's work, right? Like it's going to be a half on every decent American. I thank you for doing God's work. Everybody's clapping and they're all like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they start doing a photo shoot. And Koopa's awkward and he's trying a bunch of poses. And then the one pose that he does last, he's like, can I do this one? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. And he does the thumbs up, just like the Vault Boy. And that's when it kind of dawns on us that he was the original Vault Boy. That they were taking pictures of him to turn him into the poster so that they could then promote Vault Tech and all that stuff. And that's how the episode ends.
He's the Fallout 4 Vault Tech rep.
But to me, this guy would be more cooler than just the Vault Tech rep. He's not just the Vault Tech. He's the Vault Boy.
He is the icon. He is like leading the charge basically. And that's why it was kind of interesting. Like he says like, hey, everybody like loves you, right? This is before people kind of figured out that Vault Tech wasn't so great. I mean, I guess for the most part, they don't know it's great until that they're not great until after the bombs fall, right?
It's like, out of all people, why wasn't he offered a vault spot?
Well, that's the thing. Maybe he was offered a vault spot, and maybe he was in one of the vaults where they just took him and experimented and turned him into a ghoul instead.
Ooh, messed up idea. Maybe his family was accepted a spot, but not him.
No, because like the problem is in the very first episode, right? We see all those bombs fall, and he's on a horse, and there's no way he's gonna like get away unless the vault's like right around the corner. That's why I'm confused because it's like it's got to be radiation, but I don't know. I guess they'll show us. But those nukes look pretty close to him.
Well, because I mean, I've kind of gotten the implication that his wife, which we just found out today, works directly for Vault Tech. Like that is what I've gotten more than once. Like that's just the feeling I get.
That's what I thought.
See,
I thought she was a Vault Tech.
He used him.
So part of me is like, maybe they did have spots in a vault, because if you think about that first episode, he takes his daughter on that horse and just dips, and we don't know what happens to the wife.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know. I feel like anything's possible. It's just like, we only know for sure what happened to him. We don't know anything about the rest of his family.
True. Dude, that would be crazy if she, like, shows up and she's also a ghoul or something.
Him and his little ghoul wife and ghoul kid.
Nah, I think the kid's done. I don't think the kid made it. Because I think there's got to be something that hardened him. And I bet you if she was part of Vault Tech and she did the experimenting on him, that would harden him. And especially if his kid died, that would also harden him. So I could see that being part of his character building. But
I'll be honest, this last scene, it didn't really land for me. I thought it was, compared to everything else that was happening, it was just kind of like a, I don't know, you guys all seem very excited about the fact that he's like the original Vault Boy, and I didn't really care. So I think it was a weird way to end the episode.
well, it was rounding it out, right? Like I said, the first scene, the last scene, like they brought it back, like we didn't know what it was, the implications, and then it comes back and it's like they're trying to show us that the ghoul has gone through some stuff.
Listen, Nick just doesn't play Fallout, okay? So he's just wrong all the time.
Apparently, that's a prerequisite.
No, but this is the funny part because last episode Nick was like, "This is great," and we were all like, "Eh," and now this episode we're all like, "This is great," and he's all like, "Eh."
It's just, yeah.
So
Didn't
okay,
land.
well then let's go into final ratings because we're all kind of talking about our opinions of the episode and everything that's going on. So we'll start with Nick. Nick, go ahead. Give us your rating.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna give it an 8. Same one as I gave the first episode.
8
It
out
had
of
really
10.
good parts. This was actually the opposite, where I thought that Maximus and Thaddeus were the high points of the episode, and Lucy and the ghoul, they were all right. It was just the character building on the ghoul's part, and then I didn't really care about the Flash. It was cool to see the ghoul before, but it didn't really impact the story for me. So
Guy just doesn't even get it.
overall, I mean, the props, the monsters, the locations, they all look great. I haven't had anything that's pulled me out of the experience of being in the wasteland. So for that, I haven't seen anything below an 8 so far, but that's me.
All right, Snickers with an 8 out of 10. Let's go ahead and our guest appearance, TooRissky. What'd you think of episode 3? What'd you like? What'd you not like? What's your rating?
I this is also just kind of my first rating in general, because I haven't rated the other two, but I want to give it a perfect score, but I don't at the same time, and I'm just trying to think, like what would actually bring it down. And then there's like that whole thing with the ghoul's makeup when they're working with the gulper.
Really
it's
brought
like,
you out of it, huh?
I mean, a little bit. It's just like I noticed that, and it just kind of stood out to me because I don't know, and it's like, oh, his makeup looks kind of bad there, but I don't know. Like I love everything about it. I haven't played the games, so I don't have that love. But Jonathan Nolan is the director. I love everything he's done, and he's doing amazing. And like they're staying true to the source material, which is good for anything. The actors are amazing. The like all the special effects, the CGI, all of that, like everything looks so good. I really don't have a lot to complain about. So I would say 10 out of 10, but like it's not perfect at the same time either. I don't know. I'm really enjoying it.
So what's your rating?
I'll say 10 out of 10. But I'm really
After all that.
enjoying it. Yeah, like I'm trying to find reasons to give it a 9 out of 10, but there's nothing really to complain about because that was just one scene with the makeup and it was fixed right after that. So it didn't bother me that much. And it seems like every like continuity thing that we find, it's like, oh, there is a bit of an explanation how that could work. So, like I said,
It's pretty
like
minimal.
there's really not any complaints that really bring that rating down for me. So,
Okay.
10 out of 10
Snickers.
episode.
Snickers 8, TooRissky's 10. All right, Baked Banana, you missed basically the whole first half of the episode, but
That's okay.
what is your rating and what do you think?
I got a complaint about the episode after I did some more research. My complaint is that they keep calling that ocelotl a gulper when that's not what a gulper is. A gulper is a mutated salamander, and that is clearly not a salamander.
We were actually talking about that.
Ocelots and salamanders are
dare
in
that?
the same family, but yeah, they don't look the same as they do in the games.
Not even close.
So are have gulpers only showed up in the in Fallout 4? Have they shown up prior?
They have narrow reference to anything else other than Fallout 4's Far Harbor. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I thought. The only explanation I can genuinely think of is if you, I don't know, if you take the climate and the environment of Far Harbor, like that's just kind of a dingy, swampy, gross area.
It like wouldn't need eyes either.
Yeah, but you could have literally just called it anything else and I would have been fine.
Well, maybe it's like a polar bear compared to like a grizzly bear. They don't look the same, but they're both bears.
Different mutation of a gulper.
I was gonna say it could just be a regional thing. Like, if you go.
But once again, we're doing the explaining for them, right? Like they had a model to pull from, and they chose to go a different direction, which is like fine. But at the same time, Banana's right. It's not the gulper that we know. It's a gulper that they've made. And like you've pointed out, Dab Ninja, it has like human eyes.
Yeah.
And like, see, that's why I was thinking it was more of like a combo of a gulper and a centaur. Because the centaur had human parts
like
to
an
it.
ocelotl or whatever those things are.
Yeah, it did seem weird, but it looked really good. So okay, so the gulper pulled you out of it. What's your ranking then?
I rated it a 9 out of 10.
That was it? That 1 point was just the gulper was not actually a gulper?
Just like they'd have to sit there and actually like show me some like more fact evidence to like, well, this is why they call it a gulper. It's like, because like I said, you could have just called it anything else. Anything else, I would have not cared.
It's like kind of what you guys have said in previous episodes. Like, if it's not that way, explain why. Like, it's okay if you make it different, but just explain why.
Because if
why
there's
is that
source material for it there, like the thing is, like salamanders are kind of like everywhere though. Like,
well, see, and that's why I said maybe it's a regional difference because, like, maybe the salamanders on the East Coast are different color than the ones here on the West Coast.
I mean, fair, but to me, there's a big difference looking between what a salamander just grows up to be more like a gecko-looking one than an ocelotl.
Maybe there was an ocelotl on the.
I guess we need to see if axolotls and salamanders are in the same like genotype. Or
maybe there was an ocelotl in like the filming studios that got radiated. during the blast. Because it wasn't at the filming studios where they were,
Yeah,
where that lake was.
True.
they just somebody had their pet
Because
axolotl there.
axolotls or gulpers more look like they're a lot smaller and they kind of move more like a deathclaw,
Snaky.
snaky,
Yeah.
and they also hide in trees.
Yeah. So there's a lot more going on there than they're doing here. So it's definitely a little bit different.
9 out of 10 because I liked everything else that was going on.
Cool. Okay, so we got an 8, a 9, a 10. Dab Ninja, what is your rating of the episode? What'd you think?
I mean, so far all of them have been pretty solid, and it's kind of hard to sit there and be like, oh, well, you know,
Right.
they're all perfect. Because, like, once again, like, it's hard for something to be absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I will probably go 9 out of 10 with the fact that at, like, the 5.5 minute mark to 5 minutes, 40 seconds in, there's a possible Easter egg of the Caesar's Legion. If
You're
you...
just so hopeful.
Yes, I am, damn it.
I'd like it. I want it. Let's do it.
Like, they're just gonna randomly throw in 2 dudes dressed in, like, Roman costumes. Like, come on. I'm sitting there going, there's gotta be an Easter egg for that. It's gotta be something.
Yeah, it's very specific.
We're
what
not
they chose.
Legion no more, but we were.
But, okay, well then 9 out of 10 for you. That means we got 2 9s, a 10 and an 8. So basically, my vote will make it so we have to do some hard math, or I could make this really easy on us. But I'm with you guys. I think it's a 9 out of 10. I had a fantastic time watching this episode. It feels like they crammed so much in one episode. It's kind of felt like that for each episode. But this one was huge on character building for Maximus, introducing Thaddeus as kind of more of a character, giving some more background there. Having Lucy constantly keep facing setbacks and still be super hopeful. The Ghoul, lots of character building for the Ghoul. I think they're going to take the longest amount of time to build his character, right? So we're going to find out, why is he so mean? Why does he kill so many people? He's so cold. How did he become a ghoul, right? And the contrast of who he was before the bombs fell to afterwards. You know, that same theme of like the wasteland's going to create you into a different animal. So what kind of animal are you going to be, right? Who are you going to become? And I think they nailed that theme this episode. Episode called The Head, because it was all about holding on to the head. Action scenes great, props great, acting fantastic. I kind of like all the characters. Like, I really don't have a character that I'm like, I just hate that character. Except for maybe the council and the vault, but they're more funny than anything.
They're just dumb.
They're just dumb. Super cool with like what's going to happen in the vault, right? We have tons of questions there. What's going to happen to Maximus now that he's lied and put himself in this situation? Where's the Ghoul taking Lucy? Like, he's got to go get his drugs. Where is he going to go get those? Right? So, tons of questions, tons of open-ended questions. I'm kind of with Banana. Now, the more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, why call it a gulper if it's not a gulper? Why not just call it something else? That's kind of where my 1 point left.
Sure, there could be a lot more science reason, but like a lot of these people aren't gonna know anything other than just like. I mean, I would only assume they call it a gulper based on what its action does, which is gulp things down.
It's water and it gulps things. And it's like an easy name to pick, right? Like, Gulper's way easier than, I don't know, whatever they would have named it. But
as a true Fallout fan, I'm not. I don't like it.
True blue Fallout fan. Yeah, and then I think my only other problem was like the time continuity. They did a lot better this episode. Last episode, they definitely like why'd they put those two scenes in order, but they made it believable here. But it definitely feels like we put a lot into this episode, but we didn't cover a lot of time. But we did cover a lot of time. So it's weird. Like, I'm trying to figure out how long it takes to trek across these places, and it seems like it's a lot less time than we think it is. But at the same time, it could be tons of time. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That
The
was
timing is weird. And then also I feel like the climate, or like not the climate, but the biomes change
Switching.
so much. Like, all of a sudden now they're in a forested area. Now they're back in the desert. Now they're over here in Hollywood Boulevard and there's a ton of water and trees and all this
I
stuff.
think if
And
we
now
had
they're
a
back
map-
in the desert. Yeah, I would love to see a map of like
the
their
wasteland that they're
journey.
tricking.
Yeah.
Someone's probably drawing one up right now. I bet you someone's
Actually, yes.
crafting one.
There's this gal that I follow on TikTok who has overlaid the Fallout Vault map with a Google Earth map, and she's also taking the in-game maps from all the Fallout games and mapping them like to Google Maps and all that.
So
So you
she's
can
trying
get
to
an
see if like there's overlap and
Oh, there is. There's plenty of overlap, and like the first two Fallout games used actual like not locations, but like they straight up took like the bottom half of like California and used that as the map and whatnot. So
Mhm.
it's interesting to see how much this stuff overlays because like the Fallout 2 map and part of New Vegas overlap each other a little bit,
Mhm.
and then like same with Fallout 1 and 2. So it's just like what's funny to think about is like what states get vaults, what states don't get vaults, all the other games that kind of like cross-referenced each other, that cross-referencing, that, and it's just like it's interesting to see that people are like taking the time to map out, the Fallout universe.
Send us
I'm
that
not
link.
surprised.
Yeah, send us that link when you can.
I might have to go through my TikTok and send it that way, but
That's fine. See if you can find it. We'll find something too. But putting together a map would be pretty solid to kind of see, and maybe that would help us with our time continuity problems. But pretty fantastic episode. So out of all of our scores, with all those in, it looks like it's a 9 out of 10 for the BMR crew.
You just didn't want to do math.
I mean, I may have chosen because I knew it would be a 9, but it wasn't going to be an 8 for me because I really liked this episode, probably more than episode 2 and 1. Just a lot of happened, a lot of references, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of like the new enemy Gulper and like the ghouls character building, Lucy's interaction. Like I said, I liked all of it. It was pretty good. Just a few problems, but yeah, BMR Crew says 9 out of 10. So thanks for watching, guys. We will be getting on that next episode next week, trying to do these weekly. Try and keep up with us, even though you've probably already binge watched it all the way through. Please comment below. Tell us what you liked about the episode, what you didn't like about the episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell, hit that YouTube join button, become a Knight of Rent. And as always, become the best you can be. Become a Vault Dweller, or a Brotherhood Knight, or
Or a ghoul.
become Leggett.
A warrior of the wasteland?
a Soul Survivor.
Always true to Kaiser.
Believe it.